You ready to go? All right, we'll call this meeting to order of the Ventura County Board of Supervisors, October 1st. And we'll do the roll call, please.
Here. Supervisor Long. Here. Supervisor Zaragoza.
Here.
Supervisor Floyd.
Here. Can we all stand and do the Pledge of Allegiance? I
pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay. Thank you. Let's quickly go to our minutes. We have a motion on our...
Move the minutes.
Second.
They're on time again? I don't even know why I question it. Okay, and then Mr. Powers, agenda review real quick.
Yes, thank you, Chair Foy. Just a couple items. Item 10, request removal from agenda. Item 15. Item 15, consulting contract with Aspen Environmental Group for the Santa Clara River levee. Revised Exhibit 3 has been submitted, which has been distributed and posted, and request that this item be moved to the regular agenda.
Which one?
Item 15.
Yes, I have to recuse myself from that item due to possible conflict of interest. I own some property in
Okay. Item 17, resolution for jail construction funding. The board letter, Exhibit 1, and a PowerPoint presentation have been submitted, which have all been distributed and posted to the web. And then lastly, the hearing regarding the modification number 2 of CUP 4874 for the Grimes Rock Mine Expansion Project has been rescheduled for October 22nd, 2013 at 2 p.m. This item was originally noticed for October 1. And that's it.
Okay. Anybody else have anything on the agenda? No, that we have.
Motion is modified.
Motion is modified.
the second.
We have a second. I'll vote. There we go. Okay. And we'll go to our consent items. So we're going to pull 11, and we're going to, how about, I'd like to pull number 15, and we'll talk about that later because we've got some other things to do. So we'll have 12 to 14 and 16, is that right? Which one do we
15.
15, yes. We pulled 15. I'm sorry, I wanted to pull,
I think we're gonna
I wanted
move
to pull
15.
11. So it's, I'm going to pull 11, and then we'll do 12 to 14 plus 16. Do you have a motion for that?
Move consent is adjusted.
Adjusted, there you go.
Can I get the motion?
Very well. I want to talk later on that, though, because we got a couple other things to do. Thank you. Just going to have you hang around a little while. All right, then we're going to, pardon? And then we're going to forego our public comments and our board comments, so we're going to move right to our 8:30 time certain with the sheriff.
We're not foregoing it, we're just...
Postpone, I'm sorry, postponing them, yes,
Yes.
sorry. I'm sorry, Mr. Sheriff, I don't have a coat on when you come up here, but I didn't win the arm wrestling between you, so.
No doubt in my mind, Supervisor. Chair, Foy, members of the board, Mr. Powers, Jeff Dean, Sheriff of Ventura County. The item before your board you saw originally on July 16th and voted approval, allowed me to submit to the State Board of Standards and Corrections a request for funding to expand our Todd Road Jail facility. Since that time, the BSCC has come out with some additional changes, and so the letter before you is some language changes that will make us more competitive and kind of dot the I's and cross the T's. A few changes. Also, at the request of the CEO's office, we've updated the funding to make sure we had current figures, so that's included in there. As way of background, I do want to go through a couple slides, give the board and the community a little background about why we're here. Is it ready? What do I point at? So we're applying for a $45 million competitive bid that was funded under SB 1022, kind of a result of realignment. The state provided some additional funding, realized that local facilities needed some additional funding. When the original funding came out under previous legislation, I actually declined to apply. There were too many strings attached, and it gave the state too much control. Since that time, State Sheriff's Association made significant inroads with the governor, and virtually all those strings attached to this money have been removed. The only time that the state would have any say over how we run our facility is if the county actually went bankrupt. And we're not in great shape, but we're in pretty darn good shape, so I don't see that happening. A little background. In 1988, we completed an assessment that showed we would need about 2,300 new beds. Luckily, that number hasn't completely come to fruition, a lot of it because we've come up with some creative programs to keep our jail population down. In 1992, your board approved a master plan for a jail expansion to 2,300 beds, and in 95, the Todd Road Jail opened. Now, as you all know, we operate 3 facilities, one located within the city of Thousand Oaks that we not only house, but we book and release inmates. The second one right here, located within the city of Ventura, where we house and we book and release probably 98-99% of all the inmates that come into custody. And the third at the Todd Road Jail facility, which is located in the unincorporated area of the Santa Clara Valley, where all we do is house inmates. No one is booked or released at that facility. Today, we have about 854 inmates. All of our female inmates have been moved out there just because it allows some more programming, some more opportunities. So even if there are some inmates that may have some mental health issues, those female inmates, most of which are currently housed at Todd Road facility. The current footprint is 227,000 square feet, 64 acres out of 154, and I'll have some graphics on the wall to show you. And then the remaining 90 acres are leased for agricultural use. It was all lemon trees, and we realized we could generate a significant amount of revenue doing row crops, so that's been changed over. And again, no inmates are booked or released from the facility, and the majority of all our inmate programs occur at Todd Road. People that are there for a longer period of time, generally a little less security threat, are housed at the Todd Road facility. We're proposing expanding 64 medical beds out there. Under the approval, we could come to you. It's already been approved for 439 beds. Number one, it's not really cost effective. Number two, we're looking for alternatives so we don't have to increase our population while still maintaining safety in the community. These inmates that are going to be housed out there have been housed here right next door for about 25 years. It's no different. These are local residents that live from Ventura County. They have medical issues. It could be a broken leg. It could be something that needs a little bit more contact and that we need to have them closer to a nurse. And then there's others that have some mental health challenges that are in our facility. They're not psychotic killers. They're just not. They're just like the large part of our community that are on antidepressants. People probably in this room, people and our neighbors, it's just the reality of our society today. And sometimes those people get in trouble, and while we all agree that a jail is not the right place for those that have mental illness, it's the reality of where we are today. They're part of our local community. And one of the upsides of that is right now, because I have to house those with medical issues and some mental illness problems in a 2-level facility, and I only get single cell use out of those cells, those people will go to a 1-story facility in a single cell, and I'll be able to get double the capacity at the jail here in Ventura that I'm getting now. So it'll allow me a lot more flexibility, a lot more room, and put off probably any future build out that we may have to do. So it'll increase the footprint of the facility out there by about 20%. It's only going to utilize 2.8 acres, only a small, less than 2% of the total land we have out there. We don't project any increase in transportation runs. We'll have virtually some increased number, but we have runs that go throughout the day. They come down the 126, they go down Todd Road, and pretty much never go past or anywhere close to the city of Santa Paula. A little graphic for you, that's what the property looks like. The green line that you see is actually all the property that the county owns. You can see the jail is kind of a small footprint, and the rest is all ag property. If you can see the little orange dot down there, or the rectangular area, that is the estimated size of the proposed expansion. A little bit closer there. So it's in within the security envelope. We've been good neighbors out there. We've been there for a long time. Most of you, I think all of you, have been to that facility. It's beautiful. It's well maintained. We utilize local businesses. We have contracts with local businesses. We work hard to be a good neighbor. We do graffiti abatement along Todd Road there, which really doesn't fall to us, but we do that at no cost with inmate labor. Food recycling, we received national award and state awards for the recycling program with Agrimin, how we reuse all our waste, reducing truckloads to the Atolan landfill. We drought-tolerant landscaping to cut down on our green footprint out there. We've removed grass, replaced with rock. Local solar array reduced by 45% the amount of power out there. So it's a pretty neat facility considering what we do. And I'm totally convinced that we've been really, really good neighbors out there. And actually that valley has benefited. If you look at the businesses around us, if you fly over and you see an aerial photo, by far we're the nicest facility out there. Most people candidly don't even know there's a jail out there. And we've continued to work to reduce our population electronic monitoring, early release programs with probation to keep those things down and cut down on the amount of population that we actually have to have out there. Kind of the bottom line is this. As the sheriff, I have a constitutional mandate to maintain the jails. And nobody likes, well, most people don't. Some communities actually embrace it because it means it's a financial benefit to their city, but nobody likes it. I mean, would the city of Thousand Oaks probably prefer we don't have a jail facility there? Would the city of Ventura probably prefer we don't have one here? Yeah, but I have a constitutional mandate to provide safe and secure housing for those that the justice system deems shouldn't be out in society. And I think all of our communities don't want those people out in society. And I truly believe that your board and all of us have a moral obligation to take care of these people that are in our custody. And some of them have mental illness. It's just the way it is. Some of them have problems. And to be able to provide single-story housing for these people, because we have people that just jump off the upper deck because the last one's decided, I want to go skateboarding because of mental illness, and they're either killed or they have serious injuries. And that's not right. That's just not right. And we need to do everything we possibly can to provide safe and secure housing for those people that we're charged with. Now, this isn't the Taj Mahal. They're still locked in a cell. But it's an economical, feasible way. And this is a great opportunity to get some of our taxpayer money back. We send all our money to the state. We all know how the state takes all our money. Here's a chance for us to get money back with no strings attached to us and provide for safety and enhancement in the community. The other problem is if I don't start expanding a little bit, people are only doing 44% of their time right now. They're going to be out back in our communities, and those, sadly, at least 50% of those people reoffend and raise the crime rate. So there's kind of a double bonus here. So that's the end of my report. I would ask that you approve and allow us to go forward to apply for this grant, and I'd be happy to answer any questions you might have.
Any questions, comments? Steve?
Yeah, just a couple. One, I want to clarify your statement that if we do this, we'll be able to hold offenders for a longer period of time out of the community and in the jail.
Absolutely.
Correct, right. Particularly those that are most at risk, because those will be the ones that we would try to hold longer.
Yes.
Right,
Yes,
if we're able to do this. Second, will this be safer for the inmates, and will this be better for the inmates in terms of getting them the medical care and the mental health services that they need?
There's absolutely no doubt about that. In this design, it's one story with additional medical personnel. Actually, the increase in deputy staffing is only one. for 64 beds because of the design. These people will be right there. They'll have programming, counselors available to them, and it's just going to be safer for them.
And will it be safer for your staff because these people are housed together and you're not having to adjust the configuration of the jail?
No doubt about it. We've had just yesterday I had a deputy get beat up pretty badly with multiple stitches in his face from an inmate, and because we are crowded, to be able to isolate some of our more challenging population will certainly increase staff safety.
Thank you.
Mr. Chair. Sheriff, so these individuals are local individuals that live in the community and end up in jail?
Yes, sir, they are.
So they're not prisoners coming from any other place or that we can house or nothing like that?
No, they're all Ventura County residents.
And the other thing I think you mentioned too is that you're going to leverage the inmate capacity, moving inmates around that'll help you with the capacity problems that you have.
Yes, sir. It'll probably add another 100
Another
beds
or
for
so.
us.
So that's going to help tremendously as far
Oh,
as the capacity is concerned.
Absolutely. Yeah, on the challenge, we have probably 50 different gangs inside the jail, most of which we have to keep separate.
It's separate, yeah.
And so what the challenge becomes, how do we keep them separate and still maintain our capacity?
So this is going to help with that
Yes, sir.
concern. Thank you.
Yeah, I know that this is for both medical and mental patients, right, or inmates. And my question is, as we're looking at increasing the services for our mentally ill, we're putting in a locked facility, and we've done some programs that have significantly reduced the recidivism of these. I'm just wondering if you need this many beds, because as I see, our programs are going to become more successful, and our goal is not to have mentally ill people, going through the system, but actually getting the treatment they need.
Well, the beds are not just it's also for medical issues. So we have, and my medical friends will have to help me, a reverse, what's it called, when a medical's reverse pressure. So if there's somebody that may have some clinical disease, that we can put them in there. So while our population may go down, I hope it goes down. There's other facilities, but I can have upwards of probably 30% of my jail population are suffering from some sort of mental illness.
Right.
So the beds are what we feel is the most economical minimum number that we would need.
So I know we're looking at a 23-hour bed facility and the locked facility out in Camarillo. We've got our crisis residential, and then just these great programs now. I think that's a reduced recidivism from like 70% down to 37%. So I'm just looking at that particular population because that's a focus of ours, to see that we can keep them from recycling into the jails.
We hope so.
Yeah.
We hope so.
And Supervisor, that's a good point. Right now in this county, we have one facility that's serving the mentally ill that's private sector, and that's Vista Del Mar Hospital. We all know, and you can probably watch many programs, they're on the news or on 60 Minutes, that talks about this nation, that we still have incarceration of the mentally ill. I think with these programs, and talk a little bit more about the intensive programming that goes on, and I don't see our behavioral health director here, but we're aware that goes on in all of our facilities right now that reach out to the population to be served. And the other point about the having that separation for the medically ill, also being able to capture funding for the population.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Well, I was just going to say, related to the mental health issues, your reentry program that you work with probation, but you also work with mental health providers and social services as well, right? To have a warm handoff out of the community, make sure they get that treatment so they don't recidivate and get back in.
We actually drive them over to counseling now the day we
go.
release them, just to make
That's right.
sure, because that's so important.
And just one last thing, the concern has been raised that by doing this, we're going to be taking on more of the state's responsibilities. Yet it clearly says in the law, in the legislation, AB 109, the folks who are returned to the community are community people who came from the community. And by you looking at this grant dollars, these funding dollars, you are fully assured that you have complete control over the use of these funds in this facility for our inmates and for your responsibility.
Completely.
So with this, by accepting the funds, would this allow the state to have any involvement in running the operations at the jail?
As I mentioned earlier, unless the county goes bankrupt, the state has no input. That, as I mentioned, that was tied into earlier legislation, and I turned down the money, and so did many sheriffs in the state. And we finally went to the governor and said, you know, we're not going to do this. We don't want you to be anywhere near our facilities, have any control. And that's the only reason we're going forward with this funding.
It looks like, Jeff, you found a balance between how many beds you need and trying to control your cost and your growth. And I appreciate that because, again, your job is protect the taxpayer with the dollars, but also protect the taxpayer with safety, and you try to find that balance. And I appreciate where you've come with that. And I know you're always been a good partner with the taxpayer on that. So I think it's a good program where you're going, and I do think also for our healthcare, it can make our healthcare more efficient that we're providing to you and whatever, and the rest of the healthcare that's being done. I think it's going to be more efficient if you have a regular medical facility doing that, which is what you're trying to do. And some of your comments, the compassion that you bring with, you know, these are prisoners, but also they're people, and I got to figure a way to treat them decently. I appreciate that, and I'm sure everybody else does too. So, okay.
Thank you.
Yeah. Anybody? Yeah. Do we have any public speakers in this? Oh, these are here. Okay. These are the public. Okay. Yeah, we will go to public speakers, and then Marvin Beck. Yeah, we're going to do 3 minutes. We've got a lot of speakers
Morning.
here. Thank you, sir.
Marvin Beck. I'm here. I'm a resident of Santa Paula. Very glad to live there. It's a beautiful city, and the city is known for its agricultural accomplishments. It serves the country, one of the largest lemon producers, and it's a wonderful place to live. Recently, I had a meeting with the new chief of police, and we had a personal meeting, and we discussed his job and what he's doing, and he has proposed some improvements in the security section of the city, more lights, and he's cracking down on some of the crime that's there. He's doing a good job. The city is backing him 100%, and he has all he can do, and this will really keep the city and improve some of the lesser things that happen in major cities. This isn't a major city, but he wants to put it under control. By having this facility increased, the jail facilities increased, will dilute his interest in the city of Santa Paula, as he will have to watch and take care of any actions or anything that happens regarding the jail. Parolees, when they're released, might come and see that Santa Paula is a nice place to live, and they will come there, and that isn't an element that is beneficial to the city. We have a lot of people who live in the city who presently don't want this expansion. The city itself, the leaders in the city object to this. This will be known as a jail city, as some of the others are in the state where jails occur, Lampock and some of those other places. And we feel very strongly that this will not benefit our city.
Okay. Thank you, sir. Anything else?
All right.
Great. Thank you very much. John Chamberlain? Okay. Fred Robinson?
Good morning, Mr. Chair, members of the board, staff. Fred Robinson, I live in Santa Paula. I'm very concerned about the expansion of Todd Road Jail. For if you build it, they will come, and we'll all be back here in a few years talking about building more jail cells. In Santa Paula, we do not want to be known as a city that incarcerates people. We would prefer to be known for our murals, our airport, our agriculture, and all those things that make Santa Paula such a beautiful city. My concern is personal. I have a son who is seriously mentally ill and receives services from the Behavioral Health Department, and he's been ill now about 20 years, and in the early period of his illness, we skirted the law many, many times with him. Were it not for the strong personal advocacy of his mother and myself, he could very well be one of those people who cycle in and out of our criminal justice system. If you saw 60 Minutes on Sunday night, the sheriff of Cook County was talking about how people with mental illness are incarcerated. And I fear that if the jail capacity is there, it may diminish our responsibility to build aggressive community treatment programs. County is to be commended for some of its alternative programs to divert and minimize recidivism, but we're having the wrong conversation today. We should be talking to our behavioral health director about how we can go after grants to heighten our commitment to community-based treatment. In 1957, there were 7,000 people in Camarillo State Hospital. We closed those institutions in the 60s with the promise that there would be community treatment programs. The funding and the promise was broken, and now they are on the streets, they're homeless, they suffer from recidivism. Steve Lopez of the LA Times has chronicled how there are 3,200 people in the LA County Jail with mental illness, the largest institution for mental illness in the country. Let's not follow that path and begin a process where we also are known as diverting people with a serious illness to incarceration rather than treatment. I want to talk briefly about cost. The cost of incarceration in the state is about $50,000 a year. Quality community treatment programs can be implemented for about $20,000 a year, and there are models to do that. Step Up in Los Angeles has been very successful, and there are programs in the Bay Area as well. We should be going to Sacramento, demanding AB 2034 funds, and develop these community treatment programs. So for two reasons, as a member of the community I love and as an advocate for people with mental illness, I'm gravely concerned about this. And I want to make it very clear, I'm not being critical of the sheriff. He's doing a good job with the hand that he has been dealt. And we have not done as good a job as we should in developing alternative community treatment programs. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Chamberlain?
Thank you very much. Thank you for all the work you do here. I'm representing the Chamber of Commerce, not Limoneira today, because I wear two hats. Okay, I'm the Director of Marketing for Limoneira, a large lemon grower, and this doesn't have anything to do with lemons today, and then also the Chamber of Commerce. You know, we struggle with an image issue in Santa Paula, and we have for years, and what we're trying to do on the Chamber side is to really develop things that are positive, economic, growers and stories. This is a difficult problem. We understand that. These poor people have to be someplace. This is a great facility, but our city manager is telling us, look, this is possibly a way to expand this facility greatly. Now, we're listening to our city council. We're trying to support our city council because we think that's the right thing to do. And we understand that this is a difficult challenge, but we are concerned about image issues with respect to the city of Santa Paula and future potential expansion possibilities. So we're supporting the city council on this. The chamber is. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chamberlain. Appreciate that. And then Jamie Funtz. I'm sorry, Jaime Funtz. Thank you.
Chairman Foy, members of the Board of Supervisors, CO Powers, County Attorney, and staff, good morning. My comments will be very brief, under 45 seconds, because I have a 1 minute 45 second video that I think will bring perspective actually to the entire issue in both sides, and I hope it's helpful. Beyond that, I won't have any other comments. Please run the video.
Point of View with Vice President and General Manager Kevin Hale.
For Governor Brown, the prison overcrowding issue will simply not go away. Brown thought he had met the federal court's mandate to reduce the California prison population when he forced what came to be known as realignment on California counties, flooding local jails with state inmates. At the time, we warned Brown in a Point of View that passing the buck to the counties would increase crime. Local counties simply are not equipped to deal with an influx of criminals from state prisons, and a lot of them had to be let out early. We said it then, and we'll say it now. Brown should have sent those inmates to private prisons. As we predicted, things did not work out as Brown had intended. Violent crime in Los Angeles County had been dropping until the realignment was put in place. In 2012, we saw a spike upwards of 3.5%. On top of that, the federal court has come back and said it wasn't enough. The court wants another reduction of 10,000 inmates by December 1st. Brown is trying desperately to get a 3-year stay from that court mandate. Meanwhile, Brown is finally saying we must put many of those 10,000 inmates into private prisons. It may be too little, too late, however, because arcane private prison transfer regulations may keep Brown from meeting the December deadline. In any case, Brown should shift not only the 10,000, but thousands more to private prisons. Local counties should never again have the burden of dealing with hardened criminals wreaking havoc on the local population. Governor Brown, you have a golden opportunity to fix the prison overcrowding problem permanently. Please take it. Thanks for listening. I'd like to hear your point of view. Go to myfoxla.com and click on POV, or email me directly at pov@fox11.com.
Point of View.
All right. Thank you, sir. Michael Adams, please.
Good morning. My name is Michael Adams, and I represent the Santa Paula Economic Development Advisory Committee. The committee supports the Santa Paula City Council 100%. It is against expansion of the Todd Road facility. It's the EDAC's opinion that any short-term economic benefit will negatively affect Santa Paula's long-term quality of life, and we feel this expansion will ultimately affect numerous segments of the city, both commercial and residential, long-term. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Jim Tovis? Tobias?
Chair.
Thank you, sir.
Members of the board, Mike, staff. My name is Jim Tobias. I'm the Santa Paula City Council. When I look at any project, personal, business, or city, I always look at the numbers and sustainability. In the new staff report that you received, the request for state funding has increased from $35 million to $45 million, a 25% increase in 10 weeks. That's over $700,000 a bed. You all know that when you're doing your budget analysis, the most expensive item in running the county is the employee expense. The previous staff report indicated $2 to $3 million projected for annual cost of operation, but it also stated that the cost wouldn't be known until the design was completed. The new staff report you receive has no estimate at all. In my opinion, from a business standpoint, this is the most important part of the equation. 5, 6, 7, $8 million per year. At what point does the cost of operation outweigh the benefits of the grant? When doesn't this pencil out? If you apply for the grant, and I'm sure the state's going to grant it to you, is there an escape clause? Once you get in this thing, from a business standpoint, you do a feasibility study before you get into something, not after. But my biggest concern, as I've expressed, is state funding. Once they're in, you can't control what they can do. Legislation, the Assembly changes, the Senate changes. They can make any change they actually want. Look at the Youth Authority in Camarillo. It's changing all the time. The staff report you received indicates that there are no controls of any time from the state in this new facility or the operation. But if you look at your own resolution number 9, the county will adhere to state requirements. Why is that in there if there's no state mandates? Number 11, the county will safely staff and operate the facility that will be constructed consistent with Title 15 California Code of Regulations. I would suggest, rather than this Band-Aid approach to a serious problem, that we should be bringing in medical professionals, just like Supervisor Parks and Supervisor Long did for the Women's Council, and bring in solutions for this problem. It's not going to go away. If you choose to withdraw the application or not fund this thing, we're not going to dance on tables. That's not what this is about. It's about seeking a long-term solution for a very serious problem that affects every city in the state and the nation. There are better ways to handle this. We'd be more than happy to work with you. But again, bring in the professionals that do have the solutions and also have the funding sources. Thanks for your time.
Mr. Tobias? Councilmember Tobias, yes. I have a few questions for you, if I could. Number one, we've had a number of representatives from Santa Paula Chamber of Commerce, for example, come and say they support the City Council because this is an image issue. They don't want to be known as the jail city in Ventura County.
That's correct.
Is that the position of the City Council? That's one of the things.
Well, that's one of the items. One of the major items. The other one was the funding, and once the
Sure.
state's involved.
I appreciate that, and I have some questions for you on the funding also. But first of all, with regard to this image issue that you talk about, is there any city in Ventura County right now that is known as the jail city?
I'm concerned about, I was born and raised in Santa Paula, and I knew the stigma that was attached to Camarillo when we were growing up as a state hospital facility. Right. And there was. And we dealt with that as we grew up. And it's actually interesting, at the end of each conversation or altercation you have with a fellow classmate, the last thing they would say is, well, you're from Camarillo.
Is there any city in Ventura County today that is known as the jail city, is my question. Not Camarillo.
Not that I'm aware of, but we don't want to be the first.
Right. Even though we house inside the city limits of the city of Ventura, a population equal to the population of Todd Road Jail right now, the city of Ventura is not known as a jail city. But we have...
Well, I think it's in conjunction with the Department of Justice. It just seems to lend itself. And it seems to me a better location would be attached to a hospital. This is a medical issue. So the image is part of it. The other part of the equation is state involvement in the county, in the Santa Clara Valley.
So I guess my question is this, that the city of Ventura is not known as the jail city, even though there is a huge jail population that is housed here. We house about half at Todd Road Jail and about half here on this campus. At this point in time, yet it's not known that way, and that's inside the city limits of the city of Ventura.
Well, it depends who you talk to. Some do and some don't.
Say that again?
I said it depends who you talk to. Some believe that it is identified as a jail city.
I asked you straight up, and you didn't know of any city, so it certainly wasn't a...
Well, not me specifically, but other people have mentioned it.
Wasn't a major issue. My second question for you is, you said that this is about the numbers, and you don't think this is a good investment from a number standpoint.
Absolutely.
And we're faced with the decision of whether we apply for a grant to get state money to help us house a population while many other counties are actually expanding their jail with significant jail expansion. My question, if our decision should be based on the numbers, I go back to Santa Paula was just recently in front of us asking us to form a special joint powers agreement with Santa Paula for a separate transportation system instead of being hooked up with Gold Coast.
Correct.
And I think almost anybody would say that the idea of having two sets of administrations and all that stuff wasn't cost effective. And yet it seemed, from Santa Paula's standpoint, having having control over this seem to be more important than the dollars. What's the difference between that situation and this situation in terms of if all we're doing is looking at the dollars?
Well, first of all, the dollars were important to Santa Paula. We have a poor population that couldn't afford the rates that would have been dictated by Gold Coast. So our job as a council is to look at what's best for the citizens of our town. So that was a money issue, and it was a flexibility issue. But from this standpoint, what I see and what I don't see is the projected costs of maintaining this facility. You know, some seriously challenged inmates will need 24-hour supervision. I didn't see any documentation that would enable this county to sustain the ongoing costs. We don't even know what they are. And from the private sector, normally you do a feasibility study and get the information before you jump in. And it seems to me we're moving on this item because of a deadline. And the solution is to actually, as Mr. Robinson indicated, we need to be looking for other alternatives.
My other question for you is, the sheriff has just presented us with testimony that said this will make things safer for his officers that are there in his jail personnel. It will also mean that he no longer has the risk of second story of mentally ill inmates being on second story. Those can you put a dollar value on the improvements in safety for his personnel and improvements in conditions for the jail? What dollar figure should we place on that testimony from the sheriff?
Well, I think you need to look at the dollars before you jump into anything. But I didn't want to go where I'm going to head. But let me tell you what the alternative should have been. And it's off the table. The natural place to expand and to address safety for the deputies was to go to the Ojai Honor Farm. 400 beds, 42 acres. That was the place to expand. And this problem of overcrowding has been known to state representatives and city representatives and county representatives for years. Well, in January 24th of 2011, it was signed over to the Ojai Land Conservancy for 35 years. That would have been the natural place to expand.
So the place for the benefit of improved safety for the jail personnel and the officers, and improved conditions for everybody involved in the jail. That should have been, that cost was okay. It just should have been done someplace else.
No, I think that the cost of protecting deputies is paramount. But it takes money to do that, and it takes staffing to do that.
Well,
and so,
Jim, let me just say something. I want to make sure we don't miss a point, because Supervisor Bennett's going down a good trail. Because the sheriff was very clear that he was only going to add one staff, because the system that he tries to use now is very inefficient, ineffective. So this is going to be a much more efficient place to protect his own staff, but also it's not going to add a lot of staff. He only talked about one
I think that if you look at Senate Bill 1022, it states that they're going to dictate the minimum requirements for staffing. It's in the bill. It's on page 9. It tells you, the state indicates in Senate Bill 22, if you read that on page 9, it indicates that they will dictate the minimum guidelines for incarceration and managing the population. I can read it.
Yeah, no, but I think as you were saying, there was a...
I don't think it's a call that once the state's involved that we can make as a county. They're going to set the minimum regulations. And if they say you need more people to do it, we're going to staff it. Right now, the city of L.A. has pulled 170 officers off the street at a cost of $18 million for the overcrowding issue. Why are we going to be any different? Those are taxpayer dollars. We don't want to pull people off. But you're absolutely right. We're not going to decide that. The state's going to. And that's my big concern. Once the state's involved here, they're going to have a say as to what happens there.
I'm still asking the question, what's the cost of, what's the dollar figure we should put on the cost that we should incur for improved safety for our jail staff?
If we had an analysis before you applied, we could know that. That's not addressed. I'd like to know that. What if it's $10 million? There's no cost on safety. You can't put a cost on that, but somebody's going to pay the bill. So if there was an analysis done here and saying that we need to do these types of arrangements to facilitate that, and this is the cost, because there's no cost. You've got to protect the deputies that they're doing the job, but it's got to be realistic from a business standpoint. You need to understand how much money you're going to be spending and how much you're going to be obligated for. I don't know.
You objected to this because there's increased cost.
Well, there's a couple of reasons. The
So-
image, the cost, and the state involvement is my primary reason. I don't want the state here. The county just built a $320 million hospital. It seems to me that if we could build this facility with $35 million, which is a small percentage of your budget, you would maintain 100% control. 100% control. And that's what I see as being an advantage. And then we go seek for other alternatives, because this problem is not going to go away. You've got to take care of the mental issues with medical doctors. This is a medical issue.
So so you're saying if we funded this jail expansion with local dollars, it would be okay?
I think if we made control, yes, because you have control as to what happens there.
So
in that valley.
So the cost expenditure is okay for improved jail personnel safety. It's just whether it comes from our dollars or from the state dollars?
That's relevant, yes.
Very interesting. Thank you.
Did I go by my 3 minutes? Thanks for your time.
Mr. Powers?
Thank you, Chair Ford. Just to respond to the couple of the council members' comments. In terms of the ongoing staffing costs, we have worked closely with the Sheriff's Office, and it's roughly $2 million. It's about 1.3 for medical staffing and the remainder for deputies. In talking about funding sources, there actually is a funding source related to this increase, and that's the safety realignment funds with which your board is very familiar. This year it's going to be about $18 million. Now, that's not just for this project, that's also for probation and mental health services and so forth. But those are, as some people, on Prop 30, a lot of people knew that as the school funding, which was very important, but it also contained a constitutional protection for funding for realignment. So in terms of the funding piece of it, we do feel like we have our handle on that. In terms of this project in particular, a lot of other counties who have applied for funds for projects, they're looking to expand their project by between 300 and 900 beds. So major expansions and just building bigger prisons. That's not what our sheriff is proposing. It's a very reasonable middle level, I think, proposal compared to what other counties are doing, very well reasoned. The other thought is $700,000 per bed. For a hospital bed, I can tell you that's very inexpensive. That's a very reasonable price. Typically in the industry, it's 1.5 to 2 million. And I think that's it.
Mr. Device, Mr. Powers, Mr. Device referred to our $325 million for the hospital, and that's for how many beds?
That's for about 130 beds.
Okay.
And that's being financed also.
Well, yes, that is being financed, yes.
But in the hospital, you have a turnover of patients once they're well. There's a situation here where these beds might be filled up with people that are mentally challenged, and they occupy those beds, which will actually reduce your ability to facilitate other people with medical issues.
Yeah. A couple thoughts on that. If you look at the jail inmate census for the previous years before realignment came down, the inmate population had actually stabilized and gone down. And I think that was a tribute to the good work that our sheriff did in partnership with probation and the DA and PD's office and mental health and social services as well. Now with realignment, there's been an increase in the inmates, and this is a state shift that's already happened. It's already happened. This happened a couple of years ago. So the question is not whether the state's going to do it. They've already done it. The question is what's the most effective way of managing these inmates once they're here. And
I think there's alternatives. We need to look at medical solutions to this issue.
Can we move on to the other speakers? I'm sorry.
I was just here for questions. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Jim. Appreciate that.
Thank you.
And Michael, real quick, it's a 95-5, right, match?
90-10.
90-10. So that's important too.
Mayor Fernandez?
Chairman Foy, and members of the Board of Supervisors, I'd like to have some of Councilman Device's time, if you don't mind, borrow his time. Good morning. I'm Ralph Fernandez, Mayor of the City of Santa Paula. I'm here to address the adoption of the revised resolution in support of the Sheriff's application of the State of California Jail Construction Facility. Let's focus on the real issue before us. The real issue today is the continued expansion of the facility in our beautiful valley. The expansion of the Todd and the expansion of the 64 beds. We are convinced this planned expansion is the first step of many steps as we, citizens of the Heritage Valley, oppose. We oppose the jail location and will continue to oppose any further expansion of this jail and its ultimate goal of a mega facility of 2,304 beds, new beds, which will maximize at Todd Road Jail under the 1990 master plan. That's in your master plan. The information is in the county's own 2008 Todd Rhodes Jail Needs Assessment. The assessment states it is unknown when the option will reach capacity, since the option is designed to accept the return of state inmates back to Ventura County. Well, that is happening now, and the program is called realignment. According to this assessment, this would require a new CUP and modifications to the new EIR. The noise, dust, fumes, carbon footprint, traffic will very significantly impact environment of lives and citizens of Santa Paula and the Heritage Valley and the surrounding areas. We're all hoping that the environmental leaders on this board will recognize the end game of over 2,304 prisoners at this facility, and we ask that you consider now the environmental impacts of the facility at full capacity. If it is determined what you want in our beautiful Heritage Valley, the Greenbelt, and the future lives of people who live in it, we certainly do not. We have spent the last several years making Santa Paula grow into a well-planned manner, and our East Area 1 project is an example of that. That encourages new growth and maintains the cultural, historical, and aesthetic aspects that make our city one you would want to live in. We don't want to see this work lost by the rebranding of Santa Paula into the newest prison town. With this continued expansion of the Todd Road facility to its full capacity, this will happen. Please reconsider your proposed 64-bed expansion, the first step towards the destruction of our beautiful Heritage Valley and its environment. As you undoubtedly know, the city has appealed the county's issuance of the permit adjustment for lack of environmental review, among other concerns. I provided copies of our appeal for your consideration. The speakers that have will talk about other aspects, and there will be others that follow. Put an end to this jail expansion facility. Look at other locations that would be more suitable for a jail, an area that would benefit from a jail, not the Heritage Valley. Thank you for the work that you do. Please consider the Heritage Valley effects in your decision. Thank you.
I just have one quick question.
Sure.
I know we're on time. But your statement, I just want to clarify that your statement said rebranding of Santa Paula
That's
as
correct.
Jail City will happen if we do this expansion.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
It's one step. And there are many reports that say once jails expand to a certain level, then the total rebranding happens and big businesses will not come to the city, and it has a very negative effect to the community. There are a lot of areas that this can be placed in.
Thank you for your
Thank
testimony.
Okay, I know I got some public speakers, just normal public speakers. Is there anybody else on this issue that wants to speak or want to speak? Okay, so we have. So, Lucas, you want to speak on this too? Yes, please. All right, you're up next then.
I'm opposed to this jail expansion. I agree with the gentleman that had asked for improved mental health care services. My mom suffered from mental illness, and she was in a wonderful facility called McLean Hospital for 2 years of her life. And there aren't any hospitals like that anymore that'll hold someone for 2 years unless they have a lot of money and provide them with the adequate treatment that they need. And that's really what you need to be spending the money on. Ask the state for money for mental health care facilities. Make them secured facilities. If someone's wanting to jump off of a second-story area, then they really do need someone to keep them safe. But they don't need the prison industrial complex to keep them safe, because it's not. It's a racist system that is perpetuated by the arcane drug laws that our society has implemented to enslave the people that the society deems unworthy and useless. And so if we instead get the drug laws repealed and give these people mental health care services to treat their addiction problems, then they wouldn't be crowding these jails. I really do want these people to be safer, and so instead of continuing to imprison them, we need to treat them like people and let them into society. So I want to save my other minute and a half for my bus route. Should we do that now or later? Cool. Here's a map of the bus route. And no on the expansion.
Did you say Bruce? I thought. Yes, Bruce Dickinson's my name, representing the Dickinson Ranches in Fagan Canyon, Santa Paula. Fagan Canyon is one of the expansion areas of the city of Santa Paula, has been deemed so. I am in here in support of our city council and the expansion of the Todd Road Jail. As you know, that city of Santa Paula is one of the poorest cities in the city or in the county of Ventura. It is such because there were very, very, very poor decisions made 35 years ago or more. It was decided on a no-growth route, and that route now has been proven to be false. We now, with the beginning of the Limonera project in East Area 1, are beginning an era of turnaround for the city of Santa Paula, I believe. We also have plans in the process for the expansion into Fagan Canyon and the Fagan Canyon expansion area on the Dickinson Ranch. And we feel that the expansion of the jail is a negative impact on the perception and the overall general quality of life in Santa Paula. And I know there was some questions asked of the board here that was Santa Paula branded a jail city, and I think I can answer that, and I won't be making this up or working on conjecture. The answer is yes. As a man in the trenches who's out there trying to attract developer funds to bring to our city, one of the questions, and one of the first ones, what is your crime rate and where's the jail? So it is asked. It's not false. We are being looked at as a jail community. And so therefore, I do support the City Council's decision to oppose this. It is merely for the betterment of the city of Santa Paula to bring us back to a level that we should have been prior to this. Thank you.
Mr. Dickerson, so...
Dickinson.
Thank you. My apologies there. So your concern is that the development of Santa Paula into Fagan Canyon and the other expansion areas that Santa Paula has identified, that's threatened by this 64-bed jail expansion.
The development, Steve, let's go back to the root. The root is the funds that you must attract to do the development. And when you bring someone from Minneapolis to the city of Santa Paula and say, we want you to invest $180 million in our community, they say, okay, show me what you've got to offer.
And
they ask, okay, what's your crime rate? What are the median house prices?
And you're saying they're less likely to make that
They
investment?
are not less, they will not.
Thank you. Okay, thanks a lot.
I've got Rita Stafford on here. Is she the one? There you go. Okay, great. Thank you.
Good morning. Thank you. My name is Rita Stafford. I'm a resident of Santa Paula, and I just want to validate everything that's been said so far, so eloquently, so wonderfully. I also want to support the City Council and the other residents of Santa Paula who oppose the jail expansion. It's not in the best interests of Santa Paula's future. I think this has been said over and over and over here by all the people who have spoken before me. Sheriff Dean's presentation at a recent City Council meeting was so persuasive, so reasonable, eloquent. I almost wept. It just sounded like the perfect thing. But deep down, I knew that it was not, because really, too many people are opposing it for very, very good reasons. You might want to dismiss the idea of a branding, that this would be a jail city or something like that. But so many people opposing it have good reasons, because they all want to see a different future for Santa Paula. And so do I. I'm a recent resident. I moved from LA because I really wanted to be in a place that had potential, that was going to grow, that maybe instead of a prison, there would be like a knowledge-based economy. Maybe the county and the state could send some funds to create a university, agriculture and technology university, something like that, that would bring in, that would make the people who are going to move into the east, all the new expansion areas, give them a really good reason to live there. I mean, a jail is not a good reason to come to Santa Paula. It makes me think like we're going to have housing for their friends and families, and we just need a little shuttle bus to get them over to the jail. It just is not the kind of people that we want to see, that I want to see living in Santa Paula and the future for Santa Paula. I think that's all. Thank you very much.
Again, nobody else out there? Then I'll bring down the sheriff again.
Thank you, Supervisor. I just want to clarify a couple of the issues that were brought up. Mr. Fuentes' video, which discussed problems of realignment. Prior to realignment, Ventura County had about 1,900 parolees. After realignment, Ventura County has about 1,900 parolees. Nothing has changed with realignment except the fact that probation is watching half of them. Now, Santa Paula does have a disproportionate, compared to the population, number of people on state parole. But those are Santa Paula residents. So that's always been there. That's not going to change. This gentleman who made an excellent point, met the chief, who's doing an outstanding job out there, about him being distracted because jail will bring more parolees. There's no basis in fact, because they have the same number of parolees. And as a sheriff's office, a county agency, we continue to help them. We've probably provided, I think, over $225,000 in services last year. In fact, 2 homicides ago, we tracked down their homicide suspect for them. So we continue to work on a partnership and help them with their crime issues in the city. But this jail expansion will have absolutely nothing to do with crime. And as realignment really hasn't had that significant of an impact on crime in the county. So just to clarify a couple of points that were put out. Thank you.
Do you release any prisoners directly from the jail?
Not from the Todd Road Jail facility. They're either released in the city of Thousand Oaks or in the city of Ventura. But not like 98, 99% get released from our pretrial detention facility here in Ventura.
Okay, and are you planning to put up any new signage
No.
other than what's already up there?
No.
And has been in place since the jail was put there?
No, nothing outwardly will change.
The per bed and the operational side of the house, you and the CEO have worked closely on both the, identifying the funding and how, basically what you're going to do with the operational side is some restructuring internally to staff the jail and to have the one additional officer and basically take what are already programming that supports the mentally ill. They're dispersed throughout your jail, and they will be all housed in this location, in this one pod, this pod.
Yeah, but it's important to realize we're talking 64 beds. Maybe 25% of those are for the mentally ill. The rest are we have significant medical issues inside our jails and people that can't be housed in general population. So 20% of that 64 are with the mentally ill. The rest are all for medical.
I'm glad you clarified that, because I remember talking to you before. Your biggest issue is your medical issue.
It is.
And then, we do have some mental issues, but some medical issues, what you're really building this for.
Exactly.
And, we do run into a couple of the other situations. So, because it seemed like the whole conversation turned to the mentally ill, and it didn't seem like that was your real issue.
It's, like I said, it's 20 to 30% of my population and 20 to 30% of the new housing that we'll build.
Right. And that's going to be for the most extreme situation, because some of the mentally ill do fine in the jails.
Some of them do fine.
Yeah, I mean, because it's the extreme side of it. But I'm glad you clarified some of that up. And the other thing I'd just like to ask, housing, $50,000 for a prisoner, is that about an average number? Does that seem a little high to me?
It all depends, candidly, it all depends who's spending the numbers.
Right. Okay.
Yeah, but somewhere in there.
But on the other side, if it's $20,000 outside some other facility, I know from your standpoint, you've only got a certain budget. I'm going to move these people out as fast to some other facility if I can get them for $20,000 all day long. You would do that all day long. So the idea of keeping these people in because it's $50,000, $20,000, of course, if there's facilities out there that handle them, and I don't have to deal with that, and I can deal with the medical, my regular prisoners, I'm sure you're going to do that all day. I know you've been doing that.
Yeah,
kind
the
of
state
situation.
benevolently has offered to take back the prisoners they gave us, but they want to charge us more than they're paying us in the first place. So it's, from a
Right.
business perspective, it just doesn't make sense.
Right. And from you as a sheriff, as you're all around the county, what do you think the sense of the county, the residents understand where your jails are?
Most people have no idea.
I was going to say, when I'm listening to this, I don't know if Supervisor Parks from the East County side or even from Camarillo, most people think there's only a jail right here. I think there's one up in the county center, right? Is there a jail? That's here. I don't even think they know there's one in Thousand Oaks.
They have no idea.
And when you say Todd Road, what are you talking about? I mean, we don't hear that, but I understand if they live in Santa Paula, they understand that portion of it. But just as a city, because nobody's ever said that to me, and I was just curious if when you talk about somebody have to go up to Todd Road or something, they're probably going, what are you talking about? What's Todd Road?
I even tried to explain to somebody where the jail is in Ventura. It's at the government center. Really?
Yeah.
I've been to court there a bunch of times. Where is it?
Yeah, exactly. Okay, I was curious because I didn't see that at all, and I was just curious.
Mr. Chairman. Sheriff, again, like I mentioned initially, what you're trying to do with the 64 beds is actually those individuals are local individuals, and you mentioned that.
Yes, they're all residents of Ventura County.
And also, you're trying to leverage the capacity that you have there at the local jail. You're not adding a tremendous amount of people or inmates and so forth. Just trying to leverage what you have there now in order to maximize your capacity.
Right. We need to be able to use two persons to put two people in a double bunk cell and not one person.
Yeah, and I'm really, the folks that spoke today, I can understand where they're coming from, that they're thinking this is going to be a monumental addition to the jail, and their concerns about growth and the well-being of Santa Paula, and I can understand that, but you're really not making this a big, huge old jail or adding to the Todd Road where it's going to become monumental and detrimental to the citizens of Santa Paula. I don't think that's the intent there.
No, it's certainly not my intent. I don't personally believe it is.
It's just maximizing what you have there now.
Right, you're not even, your picture show, you don't even take up any new farmland or anything else. You just do it within your secured facility anyway.
I think there's about an acre and a half of negotiating with the farmer that won't be growing his chilies right there, but
right.
pretty
Okay,
insignificant.
Great. All right. Well, I appreciate you weren't as passionate, I guess, here as you were with the city council, huh?
Well, I thought I was. Said the same thing. I made them look at more slides than I made you look at.
Okay.
Thank you.
Well, thank you. Any other comments or questions from anybody? Sure.
I just want to say, appreciate testimony of the sheriff, and I appreciate our colleagues from Santa Paula coming here today to make their case. That's what the democratic process is about, is people be able to make a case. I just would offer, I think people can, I've seen in public policy over and over again, people can get, a fear can be put out there and then people can react to that and stuff. I actually think that the best way to get your city branded as a jail city is to inappropriately shine a spotlight on something that's just not going to have that impact. The 64-bed expansion of a medical facility, I think it's hard for most people to think that suddenly now Santa Paula is going to be known as rebranded as a jail city, and I know that people put that out there in Santa Paula, and there are people that have a real interest in wanting to develop their land, et cetera, that they're putting that out there. I just have to disagree. That's not the way. That's not the way to avoid being labeled that way. In fact, shining the spotlight is more likely to be that way. We had, there was a sheriff before Sheriff Dean very much wanted to do a major expansion of the jail, and this Board of Supervisors resisted that and did not push for that. So the belief that this 64-bed expansion is suddenly going to turn into the whole major expansion out there, I don't see that being the legitimate concern to not do something that our sheriff says is going to be better for his personnel, better for the housing of the inmates overall. It's hard to square those two arguments. So appreciate the arguments being made. I think you made them with a lot of passion here today, but I certainly disagree.
And I appreciate your comments, Supervisor, because we have a jail here as big as that jail, and I don't never hear anybody say Ventura's a jail city either. So,
right.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. And thank you for coming to speak this morning. And I respectfully appreciated hearing what you had to say, hearing the concerns. I will have to disagree with you. I feel that the concerns have been addressed repeatedly by the sheriff, and I think also in the resolution that's being put forward. I will, repeat, no inmates are booked or released from this facility. Inmates to be housed in the expansion currently exist in our system already. We're going to be humanely treating them by providing for what is, frankly, a pod that's going to house for their physical and mental health needs. It's a humane way to treat a population that already exists within our jails. The inmates are part of our community. They're not somebody else's from some other part of the state, some other county. They offended in this county, they're returned to this county. We have to treat them one way or the other, whatever their sentence requires and whatever their needs may be. This is a humane way to treat them. Ventura is 3.2 miles from this site. Ventura does not refer to itself as the jail city. Santa Paula, an image is created by what you see yourself as. If you see yourself as the Heritage Valley, you see yourself as the mural city, all the good things that Santa Paula has been doing all these years, you create the image. An outsider doesn't create it for you. An outsider is going to come in and ask, how are your schools? How are your parks? Is the community engaged? Does the community embrace this community? And Santa Paula has a history of doing that. That's what you need to have created and continue to create as your image. One of the things that we struggled with years ago, as we struggle with any major facility that's going to be a responsibility of the county for health, welfare, public safety, is the cost effectiveness, the efficiency of the operation, the sustainability of the facility for the period of time that we're either going after the dollars for funding or commit the general fund or operational dollars for the life of the facility. So there's been a thorough examination of what this is going to cost the taxpayers of this county. And with realignment, the goal of realignment is that you lower those beds. And that certainly is a goal that no one's walking away from. We would all like to say as a society, let's not incarcerate, let's educate. Let's not put them in jail, let's put them in beds where they get help. But there are some bad guys out there, and the bad guys have to be incarcerated. We've done an excellent job in this county, I believe, in both the cooperative county-wide of our law enforcement professionals, between even more so with realignment, probation, DA, public defender, sheriff, and looking at, and our community-based organizations and our faith community, and looking at how do we help folks who, one, either keep them off of that path, or if they are returned to us and they are our people, our citizens, how are we going to help them from reoffending? That is the sole goal of realignment. The success of that will certainly make a difference down the road for all of us on, is there any further expansion needed at Todd Road Jail? The success of realignment will answer that question, and we all have to work on that so that you're not looking at this 15 years from now. It is difficult to speak respectfully and disagree with
some of the community in Santa Paula. And I'll say to you that, and you know, that there's not unanimous position on this. I think that everyone has concern, but when you get the facts, then you have an opportunity to be evaluating the concerns and evaluating the facts and then saying, you know, they've done a good job operating the Todd Road Jail. The sheriff spoke to, has there been one incident in the city of Santa Paula that was a result of the Todd Road Jail being there? I think when you talk about image, and with our fine reporter in the audience, Peggy Kelly, the papers have to report. That's their job. Report what's going on in a community. And the Santa Paula Times always does an excellent job. But if you want to talk about your image, put it on the front page, all of the wonderful things that are going on in Santa Paula. Instead of next to the article about this item, you've got a picture of a bad guy. You know, create the image you want. Work with it. Work with the community as you do so well and with the entire Heritage Valley. This is going after dollars that are both cost-effective, using the taxpayer dollars wisely, operational model that's cost-effective, and humane. Treating people with respect who are ill already within our system, treating them with respect. So I will respectfully disagree, support the adoption of the revised resolution, and move forward the application to the state. That's my motion.
Okay. Supervisor, you have a comment?
Yeah, I'm going to support the motion. We have, with the sheriff saying something like 25% will be people with mental illness, you're talking about 16 people. And our goal is going to see that when those 16 people get out, they don't come back in. And it's going to be our goal to see that we don't have people recycling through the system. And what Supervisor Long said is the key. We need to make sure that the 70% or over 50% of people who keep coming back to jails don't keep coming back. And that gives us as a county the ability to work, and that's what realignment's all about, so we don't have these reoffenders. At the state level, they weren't doing the job, so this gives us the opportunity. But I think having 48 people who are severely medically ill that they need to be housed separately and 16 people with mental illness, as Supervisor Long says, this is a better way to treat the same individuals. So it's not, I don't see, going to have any impact on the city of Santa Paula. You already have a jail located, within that region. I don't think adding 16 people, beds for 16 people with mental illness and 48 with physical illness is going to have an impact whatsoever. But I do appreciate your coming here, and I do appreciate your concern, and I hope you'll continue to work with us to see that we can make sure that we keep particularly the mentally ill out of our jails and see that we can get them the good treatment. And I am so hopeful with the programs that we have out there that we are going to be building a lock facility at the Camarillo airport site, that we do have an emergency psych unit that can handle 23-hour beds, that we have another facility right at the campus at the hospital for people to reside after they get out of the intensive psychiatric unit. We're putting more programs in place than we ever have in this county, and it's to make sure that we don't have to fill those 16 beds, and I'm hopeful that will be the case. I do appreciate also that you came here and your concern, and I hope you'll work with us.
Okay, so we have a motion on this item by Supervisor Long. I second that, and then we voted. Okay. So, again, thank you all for coming. Appreciate this. A lot of good debate. Thank you, Sheriff. Yeah, we'll take a...
Just as a point of information.
Sir, you're not allowed to speak under this.
I've lived in other cities.
Okay, we're going to take a break until 10 o'clock.
And if
okay,
this
she'll come down and talk to you.
May I...
All right, we'll come back here to order, and we're going to go to our 10 o'clock time certain presentation. Zaragoza, I know you have a special presentation here.
Thank you, Mr. Chair and Board of Supervisors. I really have a resolution from the Board of Supervisors honoring Gene Hawes. You know, Gene has done a tremendous amount of work for the community, especially helping students pursuing careers in engineering and investing in the future, in today's generation for the future. And he has really done an outstanding job giving back to the community. And today I'd like to read a resolution, but before I do that, Mr. Chair, I'm going to call Peter Zerhut and Joanne Hawes, the sister of Gene Hawes. But we'll also have Bruce Stansley from EDCVC, Norman Tan from the Ventura College Foundation, Sean Leonard from the Boys and Girls Club of Oxnard and Wainimi, and Amanda Brogy from Jeff Gurrell's office, and Sandra Delgado from Julia Brownlee's office. And after I make my presentation, we'd like to give them maybe about a minute and a half to share, they're also thanking Gene Hawes for his good work. So what I'd like to do is read this resolution honoring Gene Hawes Foundation $1 million check to the Society of Manufacturers Engineering Educational Foundation for Machine and Technology Scholarships. Whereas Gene Hawes Foundation has demonstrated its commitment to education and training through the gift of $1 million for scholarships in manufacturing and machine training. And whereas the Society of Manufacturing of Engineers, SME, Education Foundation is committed to inspiring and preparing and supporting the next generation of manufacturing engineers and technicians in the advancement of manufacturing education. Whereas the donation of the donation assists 1,000 students across North America, Europe, and South Africa. The $1 million donation will build skilled workers in order to qualify for high-paying machinery or manufacturing careers in the manufacturing industry. Whereas Gene Hawes Foundation has awarded more than $15 million to deserving charities since 1999, while expanding to provide scholarships for students entering into the technical training programs, especially in the machine-based certificate and degree programs at community colleges and vocational schools. And whereas the SME Education Foundation has awarded more than $33 million since 1980 in grants, scholarships, and awards through its partnership with corporations, organizations, foundations, and individual donors. Gene Hawes Foundation, the SME Education Foundation are working together to build a sustainable working force for the future of manufacturing industries and machining and engineering. Now, therefore, be resolved that the County of Ventura Board of Supervisors commends Gene Hawes Foundation and the SME Education Foundation for its dedication and commitment to the education, enhancing the manufacturing industry, and supporting the vitality of the U.S. and global economy. This is presented on today's date, October 1, 2013. And I'm going to go down, and then we'll have Bruce Stansley go ahead and share a couple of words, and followed by Norman and Sean and Amanda, and then Sandra. So, Bruce, you're up, and then we'll have Peter stand next to you so you can.
Excellent.
And also Joanne, and I'll go down to present this to you.
Good morning, Bruce Stensley, President of the Economic Development Collaborative. Morning, Chairman Foy, members of the board, Mr. Powers and staff. Just a couple of quick points. One, I got the dry part of the presentation today, but I think it has soul as well. First, let's understand how important Haas is to the local economy. It's over 1,000 jobs strong, quality pay and benefits, huge network of suppliers. It has a huge and powerful footprint on Ventura County. It's through pay, it's through wages, it's through the foundation, it's through this network of suppliers. Secondly, while we're recognizing Haas's extraordinary commitment to the nation and globe for economic issues and workforce issues, they're a huge leading player in the local economy. As you know, been very involved in the workforce board, been instrumental in the establishment of what's called the Manufacturing Roundtable of Ventura County, leading this effort with Alcoa, with Amgen, with Kinemed in Camarillo. The third point is to understand how huge this is as an industry to Ventura County. Manufacturing is still 30,000 jobs in Ventura County. We have the 5th highest paying jobs in the nation in manufacturing because of the high-tech nature of the economy locally. And we are still in the top 10 to 15% in the density of manufacturing jobs amongst all urban areas in the nation. None of this, absolutely none of this, would be possible without Haas as the leader. It is the anchor. It is the leading manufacturer creating quality jobs across the board. Their participation in EDC, with Cheryl Moore and the Workforce Investment Board, with the Roundtable and the Oxnard Chamber. It's been spectacular. But this investment in workforce skills and understanding is huge for the economy and for us locally. Thank you. We're thrilled to be here with you.
Thank you, Bruce. Thank you. And we have, I didn't bring my list down, but who's next? I didn't bring my list down, so I'll go ahead and speak.
Hi, good morning. Norbert Tan, from the Executive Director, actually from the Ventura College Foundation, and thank you so much for having us. I just wanted to spend a minute just to say that Gene Haas Foundation and Haas Automation figured this out early, that if we educate young people, get them through college, everything that Bruce said is going to come true. Gene Haas Foundation has supported over $250,000 to Ventura College, and has supported over 1,000 students, many of whom are the first in their family to attend college. There are folks like Vanessa Leal, who's a single mom with 2 kids, who wasn't going to go to college, but she got the Ventura College Promise that was funded by the Gene Haas Foundation, and she ended up going to Cal State Channel Islands, graduating, and now working in our office with a full-time job. So we just have hundreds of those stories, and the Gene Haas Foundation has also funded an endowed scholarship as well. So we really are just appreciative of their support to educating our folks here in Ventura County, in addition to nationally and internationally. So thank you.
Thank you so much. And we have Boys and Girls Club.
Morning, Chairman Foy, Supervisors. Thanks for this opportunity. I'm Sean Leonard, the President of the Board of the Boys and Girls Clubs of Greater Oxnard and Port Hueneme. We're happy to have the Board of Supervisors commend philanthropy and hope that the actions of the Gene Haas Foundation will inspire others to be a positive force in the welfare of others. We too would like to recognize the Foundation because its support has made a crucial difference in our ability to serve more than 9,000 children. Our organization serves all children regardless of a family's ability to pay a token $20 annual membership fee. Our programs are free to members, but our actual program cost is $500 per child per year. Donations make up the difference. The impact we have on kids' lives is profound and positive, and Gene Haas Foundation's impact on our organization is profound and positive as well. The Foundation is creating a ripple effect throughout Ventura County and beyond, and our rich and our young club members grow up to become caring, self-sufficient, civic-minded leaders in our community. We're grateful for the Foundation's generosity.
And you have, what, 10,000 kids at the...
about 9,000 that we
about
serve.
9,000 or so kids that we serve over at Oxnard. Yeah. Thank you so much. We have...
Hi, good morning, everyone. It's an honor to be here today on behalf of Assemblyman Gorell to recognize the generous work of the Gene Haas Foundation. Your contribution, this investment that you've made to our future workforce is absolutely invaluable and very much appreciated. And we're so fortunate to have an organization such as yours here in our community. With that, I would just like to present this certificate of recognition on behalf of Assemblyman Gorell and the California State Assembly as a small token of our appreciation for the work that you do and for the contribution that you make to this community, both through the foundation and through Haas Automation. So thank you so much, and congratulations on all of your success.
Thank you very much.
Okay, what else do we have? Anybody else? I left my list up there, but if not, why don't we just take a big photo of it? And before we do that, you want to show something?
Yeah. Well,
see what happens when we leave my notes up there.
Very, very briefly, I want to thank you, Supervisor Zaragoza, and the entire Board of Supervisors. Thank you very much for this recognition. On behalf of Gene Haas, who couldn't be here today, unfortunately, thank you very much, and we're really fortunate to be able to do this kind of work. We love being able to do this kind of work in the community, and we hope that this is maybe we'd like to see the rest of the community get involved too, and so we hope this is maybe a little bit of inspiration for the community.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Share anything, the sister?
Yes, I'll just say thank you very much, and just to mention that education is extremely important to Gene. Our mother was a teacher in the school system for 40 years, so he's a firm believer in it, and as of right now, he is in an engineer meeting, so I just want to say thank you on his behalf. Thank you very
so
much.
You know, we had the opportunity, board members, my whole staff and I, to tour the Haas Automation plant. If you have not done it, it's just unbelievable. That's all the automation that they have there, and the work, the highly skilled professionals that they have, just outstanding. So I want to thank you again for the excellent work you do for the community. Thank you. Now we can take the photo. We'll just turn on this way. Give you the
Wait a sec.
right here. Okay. Thank you so much again.
Thank you very much.
Peter. Thank you.
It's always great to see people that have been very successful in this community give back so much to the community. Yeah. All right, we will go on to our. We've got another 10 o'clock, but I'd like to go back to our 11, number 11, and then you could probably stay down for the other one. Good, I'll make it easy on you. I don't know, easy. Anyway, so I don't know if you want to explain this thing or you just want me to ask questions.
Either way, I'll follow your lead. All right, welcome. Good morning, Chair Foy, members of the board, Mr. Powers. I'm Barry Zimmerman, for the record, from the Human Services Agency, and what we have before you today is a contract with Goodwill, and this is a contract to do employment services for our CalWorks program and the Welfare to Work program. What they do is that they cultivate work sites to place individuals either in an unsubsidized fashion or in a subsidized employment fashion to give them work experience in order to meet the requirements of the Welfare to Work program. The contract is somewhat unique. This is a thrust that is a big emphasis by the state to move individuals from CalWorks program to productive employment, and that's been a change in the sense that they are not allowing other activities to occur in the program, but really focusing on employment as the primary goal. So a program like this is vital for us to be successful in it. It's not an easy activity. Some of the individuals need some work aids in experience and skill set enhancements in order to be successful in the workplace market. So that's what Goodwill will be offering for us, so we can meet those high goals in moving individuals into productive employment. Now, the contract schedule, the way it's structured, is by really diverting some of the grant monies that normally would be paid to them, or how we administer grants, and shift that to the subsidized portion of the wages so they can work and pay for it through the grant deferral there. It is a performance-based contract, and so Goodwill gets paid based on the success of the clients. It's not a cost-type contract in which we're just paying for staff out there, that the goals have to be achieved, that they have to have stability in at least 4 months is one standard in order to receive a payment. And if they achieve a longer-term goal of 6 months stability in unsubsidized employment, then they receive another payment. So it's a performance-based contract in that regard to really motivate the job the job accountants really, or the job developers out there, to work for meaningful placements that will achieve the goals. So that's it kind of in a nutshell that we have. Now, the contract is $700,000. That's over an 18-month period is the horizon of that contract agreement with them. So, mathematically, that's about $39,000 a month is what it would turn out to be.
I guess when I looked at this, just curious, we've kind of done this before, though, right?
Right.
And we weren't real successful with it before.
That's correct.
And so this does not have anything to do with the goodwill. I mean, that's not my issue. My issue is, are we doing the same kind of program, just trying to get a different group to do it for us because we weren't successful? That whole thing is just keep doing things and not be successful.
Just over about a year ago, we had a previous contractor that was not successful in it, and so we did switch to Goodwill. And so Goodwill has been running this program for the past year, basically. And we've seen some success. We've seen some issues that we needed to improve on how we prepared individuals to be job ready and so forth. So we're working together to make it successful, but we do believe we're on the path for success. We've received enough that it is a workable program. We just want to bring it up to a higher level of achievement.
Right, because it sounded like before they were trying to get 75% as their goal.
Right.
I don't know why they want to get 100%, but I guess they're probably realistic. We can't always get 100%. Right. But only 25% of those people even completed the program before, I guess, is what your numbers showed. And then only 20% of the 25 even got a job after. So it looks like we started with 100 and something people and they go through it. My understanding is maybe only 5 or 6 people really got a permanent job they could do after. It just seemed a very expensive way to hopefully get 5 people a job. Now, maybe I'm wrong on understanding that, but is there something different? I appreciate you're willing to try. I agree. The number one thing is to get people back to work. And Goodwill's got a pretty good reputation for working through things like that and getting people to work. So I'm just trying to figure out, is it money we have that we're just trying to just keep doing the same thing, or is there some other way to do a program, unless you've come up with these new ideas?
Yeah, no, those are excellent questions, and I don't think we're really stagnant in our approach to modify the program to enhance it for its success. We've had some learning, and there's some learning with the population, and also more importantly, the connectivity to the business community. And so building those bridges are not an easy task, especially in our recent economy when there are many people looking for entry-level jobs at this time, and it's pretty competitive in that lower wage market in which we are participating in. So there was some learnings on how better we can bridge into the business community to make those connectivities, to have the right placements for these individuals so they can be successful. That was one area. The other area was, are we equipping the individuals appropriately when we refer them to the program that they can be successful? So we have some work on our side to do as well.
Yeah.
All right.
That's a good point. That was one of my big things, was thinking, if people just say we have a program apply, hold it. There's only a certain group of people that need to have certain qualifications, prerequisites in order to get into the program. Because if I don't have any basic skills, I may have to teach them basic skills before they can go through this to get a job.
Right.
Is that more where you're thinking?
Yeah, and so we do have to have them prepared appropriately in order to be successful in this environment. Now, Goodwill works in a partnership with us, but we've looked at that on how to improve it. Now, the other aspect of the program is it's a contract amount awarded up to that certain range. So if an individual doesn't get placed or doesn't attach themselves as a subsidized employment, that the funds aren't being expended. It has to be based on an outcome basis. And so, we see the contract award of $700,000. The full funds may or may not be used per se. It's based on really the attainment and achievement of the goal. Right. So that's what we're outlining here.
Right. So they get to go into a place and into a job, and the employer subsidized. A big portion is paid by this program.
Sure.
And then hopefully they get to look at that employee and say it's a good employee. And then when they come off subsidy, they're willing to pay them.
Absolutely,
that's your goal.
And that's the intent, is to have an employer connect with us and say, sure, we'll take that. We understand there's some skill set enhancements that need to be done on this employee, but since you're subsidizing some of that wage, which is really the training aspect associated with that, the employer should say, sure, I'll take that. And then at the end of that training period or subsidy period, we would anticipate that they would continue on in full-time employment.
Okay, and I think that's good. So, like I said, I appreciate you trying to help through this. I mean, the success we had last time was not good at all, but it sounds like you're trying to, what goes into the pipe to start with, we're going to try to get more qualified people that can get in there versus
Yeah,
which is a big piece of that.
We should have a better success rate by the way we prepare individuals into the program. That's one avenue, and also our requirements of how Goodwill is now engaging with the business community versus just placements for job experience. What we are saying, no, cultivate the business leads for long-term employment. And so that's what we're really thrusting for, is to have long-term success in the program and not just meet what we would call the program requirements in the short run.
And long-term success, which will mean they get off CalWorks as well.
Yeah, absolutely.
They're self-sustaining.
That's the primary goal.
And the other piece is that what I liked is that they used the data to drive their decision-making here. They didn't gloss over and say everything's fine. They said, here's the numbers they're showing. We need to improve things, and they're doing it, which I think is great. And the last thing is that this is a startup, in a sense. I mean, it's been going on a year and a half, but they're creating this program from scratch.
Right. So we're not copying another program we saw successful someplace else. We're trying to...
No, this is unique really to our environment here.
And there's no question, we spend some money, it's a lot of money, but I like the idea that this is results-based payments, which is great. Yeah. But at the end of the day, if I have somebody that's on some type of subsidies for years and years and years, I spend a little now up front to get them off that for years. There's no question, it's better for all of us and taxpayers and everybody going forward.
Yeah, absolutely, and we do have time limits, and that's why we want a program like this that would encourage it.
Right, but the thing is, I just wanted to hear what you were doing to change the program in regards to, because again, we don't want to keep doing the same thing. It wasn't successful.
I appreciate that.
And I appreciate that you're doing that. Okay, great. All right, wonderful. So we'll just vote on this and then we can go back to that. All right, we'll look at this again and yeah, we'll monitor, and I appreciate you looking at that. And like you said, it's not all going to be expended unless there's a reason to. All right, so now you want to come up and talk about something else.
Good, yeah, this is the happy presentation now. We
I don't think he likes it when I ask him to come up.
Thank you. We do have a presentation that we'd like to report on. I know over the past and through various other activities that we've done, we talked about our mobility activities that we're doing within our agency. In particular with the social work environment that we have and how to equip our workers with the best tools that they can have at their disposal as they're doing their work in the field. And so what we're here is to report back on a mobility project called an iPad initiative that we started about a year or a little bit more than a year ago. We know technology is an important part of our business. And we have a lot of technology that's out into the world in general that is very nice and can be used for great benefits. But unless we integrate that in a fashion that really meets our need and becomes an integral tool, technology is just there to exist per se. And so what we really wanted to do was to figure out how we can use the most modern technology in order to benefit our workers in the end result of serving the community better. And that's no easy task, and so we've had many people help us with that, and I'd like to recognize just a few of them that are here. We'd like to recognize first our information technology manager in our agency, Art Samari, and he's sitting right there, and his staff did a tremendous job in taking this new technology and figuring out ways that apply to our environment and how we can use that. So Victor Guerrero, Mark Ridgely, and Kate Egan were instrumental in working solutions for us, as well as we had tremendous cooperation from the county's IT department, Mike Pettit and Rodney Lanthier, who really sat down and understood what we were trying to achieve to really work through some of the barriers that existed on how we can get information and access to big systems out into the field. And I appreciate their efforts in working with us in that to make it successful. So we had some goals associated with the project. We wanted to get tools out into the social workers, out into the field, and have it be a simple tool that they can use and be a value added. The ultimate goal was, can we put an office in their hands out in the field, so they didn't have to retreat back to an office to get the resources to finish the work that they had. And so that was some of the primary objectives, as well as it needs to make sense. There has to be some efficiencies and some effectiveness to the use of the technology. And so that was the primary initiatives and goals of the project. We also wanted it to be user-friendly. Now, years ago, if we looked at this 5 years ago, there weren't a lot of technologies that were so friendly out there that could allow it. We had kind of bulky laptops, these type things, but we didn't have these friendly interfaces of applications that we see with tablet technology today. And so that the advancement of technology has opened up a new world for us into exploring the potential benefit for our workers there. So we rolled out the iPads. We did a pilot for a period of time testing multiple modalities of technology, from laptops to cell phones to tablets to digital recorders were some of them, to see what technologies really were needed and what would be the best overall benefit for the workers. We came with the tablets. In this case, the iPads were the ones that were the most adaptable and easy used and met our need the best. So we went with that. So for the past year, we rolled out system-wide, both in our adults programs as well as in our children's program, that the field workers were all issued not laptops, but iPads. This is a standard model. I brought one here as an example. Here is the issue: the field worker would get a keyboard and a tablet, and they can use it in many different ways based on the environment that they're in. So that was the activity that went on and where we are at today. So as far as current, we've been going over a year now, so we have a lot of experience associated with the use of the technology, and it's been widespread, meaning the entire organization has this technology there. Now, the application, there's some standards, the applications that we have for a tool, like a tool belt, if you will, or a tool drawer, that are on all of them in a standard fashion in order so each worker has consistent resources there. There's some of them listed there. We have Google Earth, email. We have one that's, you can translate from English into other languages, so you can speak into it and get general commands down and so forth to communicate for those that are very limited in there. Some of them are more practical to use in some environments, and some are less practical, but all important tools for individuals to use. And I'll go over some of these, of what they look like and how they may be used there. So we have, here's a simple app that is Google Earth that many have participated in on their smartphones and to see. And we feel this is a very valuable safety tool for workers that are out in the field. Oftentimes they're given a referral to a neighborhood they may not be familiar with, or a house or an environment, and so they could put in the address and take a look, so they get a visual representation of what the environment looks like to go there. Now, one experience during the pilot phase, when I had that, a worker shared with me how he used this out on an incident where he went out in the Simi Valley and was approaching a home. In this case, it required law enforcement to be accompanying the individual, but the house was more like on a compound, and so they didn't really know how to approach the house. So what they did was set up the iPad on the hood of the police car, and they Google Earthed it, and the police with them said, okay, this is where we'll be in case you need our assistance and so forth, and so was able to approach the house in a much more coordinated fashion. So definitely that enhances the safety associated with the ability to have that readily available for the workers and those that are dealing in unfamiliar environments. Another feature of it is a simple PDF forms app in which fillable forms can be loaded onto the iPad, in which can be filled out. Signatures can be obtained right there in front of an individual if it's an authorization that they need to give, or if the worker needs to fill out a note, and then can email that document to any recipient at that time. So it's a very useful and handy tool, and we're looking more on how we get more and more of our forms in these interactive formats, so they can just be all a library, basically, can be had on the iPad there. In addition, we can acquire documentation in the field. So with the camera feature, you can scan in documents and keep those in and be able to report back on them. Oftentimes, individuals who are in programs and so forth has to show evidence that they participated in a counseling or what have you. And in the past, we either would have to say, do you have a copy of that we can take, or take it, make a copy, and give the original back. And so the transference of information sometimes was lacking or delayed. In this case, the document can be scanned immediately, then uploaded into the system appropriately, documenting the efforts that go on with the clients. In addition, so those are kind of the applications that you can have features to do it. The tool itself, or a tablet, in this case, can also access the internet. So our web-based programs are easily accessible at any point. So here's the application, the TRIO, which is our Adult Protective Service Case Management System, is a web-based system. So wherever the worker goes, with the iPad, they have connectivity to the internet. They have full access to the resources of the case, so that they can work with it, they can read what goes on, and they can use the tools associated with the case. So access to web applications is a great benefit there. This is just more of the screenshots that come up with the web-based system and the APS TRIO system there. In addition, and this was an area that was needed some efforts and some exploration by the IT experts, is how to come up with not only we can use applications on the iPad to do things, we can connect to the internet and get our web-based applications, but how do we connect to the county's backbone and get to the internal systems and do that in a secured fashion that actually wasn't really slow and heavy to do. And so the IT professionals came up with these applications, a mobile VPN and a Pocket Cloud applications that allow us to connect to the county backbone and get to our internal systems in a fashion as if in the field an individual is sitting in front of their computer and able to access their desktop. And so all the work that they do back in the office now is available to them in the field in a certain respect. So that was a huge milestone to really make it that this is an effective and productive tool in a very simplistic way to get access to all the resources that an individual would have in the office. So that's a screenshot of someone's desktop. That would be how it would appear on the iPad, as if they are sitting before their terminal and working in the office. I've used that technology and tested it out, and it's very stable and works tremendously and very fast. And that is important because now it allows secured access to systems that are highly confidential and are readily needed in the field. For example, from that, now you can launch and get into the CWS-CMS, which is the Children's Welfare System, CMIPS, which is IHSS records, and so forth. All can be accessed now through the iPad technology. So not only does the technology lend us to have the power of the office there, it has lent itself to some great efficiencies. And we see efficiencies in just the ease to do work, as well as transportation and moving around. And if we just conservatively say that a half hour a day is saved from going from the field to the office, that adds up cumulatively over the year and has significant savings associated with the time in which an individual can be most productive. So those are some of the key aspects of it. We also have worked with our staff. We did surveys and said, and constantly looking at, what can we do to improve? Their response has been very positive in how useful a tool and a technology like this was for them. And so we've had a very high return as far as satisfaction and the value that they see in it. And so we'll continue to monitor that. Now we're getting into, now as they get more familiar with it, they're asking questions, well, can we just do this type of thing with it, and so forth. And so now that will grow the innovation associated with the power of the iPad technology. And it's really limited the way we've done it. It's what iPads we have, but really it's tablet technology that it's not, we can use almost any tablet to do these type of activities. We continue to look long term. Okay, so now we've given tools to our workers out in the field and so forth. We want them out in the community as much as possible because that's where they give the greatest value, is being out into the community. So we're looking at other longer term performance outcomes to see, are we making an impact? Are we closing referrals quicker? Are we having long-term impacts with this ability of having the workers more engaged out into the community with the clients? So those will be further studies and looking at it more. So the future is we're looking at doing more customized applications to make it even more productive and more valuable for the workers there. We're looking at, coming up, and there are barriers associated with having signatures on legal documents. So we're looking to overcome and how to build the legal requirements in order to not have to have paper transferred around and kind of have a lag associated with it, but that workers as well as clients can receive electronic documents and deal with them so we can rapidly get information back. We see that video conferencing is another area that I think as technology improves, we're going to see that better and better on having the ability to actually face-to-face meet with people remotely in the field or bring someone remotely. And the vision is that in the future, as video technology improves, that we can bring experts out to the field. So, but they can be in one location and be ported through via a teleconference or video chat or what have you in order to actually be exposed to the environment in which they're advising.
Some banks are doing that now, where you can go and deposit the check. They'll look at the check over the video and they say, well, is this the right one? And they talk back and forth, and it works really great too.
Yeah, so as that gets more and more, we're only in a good position to roll that out. And so those are some of the future things. We're mindful of the cost of it, but we think as technology rolls out, as we move to the cloud structure, we will see some savings in the underlying structures of how we operate and run the iPad technology. So that's kind of a quick summary of what we've done in a shotgun fashion. We could go over all the applications, but we have two workers here. Lorena Morales Torres from Children's and Griselda Gaitan from Adults. They're the true champions of the technology. It was kind of, from my desk, it's all theory. That sounds great. Why don't we do that? But so what they're here is to share their experience firsthand to say what does this technology mean out in the field, and what does it mean to their work, and how that may have changed over time. So we'll turn the time over to you guys.
Good morning, Chairman Foy and Board of Supervisors. Thank you so much for having us this morning. I'm Griselda Gaitan, and I'm a social worker with Adult Protective Services.
Good morning, Lorena Morales, Child Welfare Supervisor.
I would like to begin by saying how much we appreciate Barry's vision for technology and providing us with a mobile office. That's what I consider the iPad for me, because it has been imperative in our work in protecting our seniors out in the community. One particular case that really does come to mind where the iPad pretty much was, I'd like to say, a lifesaver. We got an immediate response call from Santa Paula Hospital where they had the paramedics had just arrived with an 82-year-old wheelchair-bound, bed-bound individual with Alzheimer's, pretty much nonverbal, with stage 4 decubitus ulcers throughout his body, extremely emaciated and malnutritioned, the family was there and attempting to prevent them from admitting him and keeping him. I was very fortunate in that I was able to use my iPad not only to research any previous history on this individual, but to take pictures and provide those pictures via email immediately to my supervisors and our district attorney. We were able not only to get law enforcement to respond in a prompt manner, but as well to obtain an emergency protective order for this individual who could not speak for himself. And needless to say, he has, it's been an ongoing process, but he remains in a skilled nursing facility where he has definitely improved his, not mental, but he's well cared for. He is very well nutritioned now. He is thriving, and then he is in a much more protective environment. So that is one of the many examples that I could provide to you as how the iPad served as an invaluable tool. It was a real time. I was able, again, to access any history, and then pictures speak 1,000 words. I was on the phone with Kathleen O'Brien, our district attorney, but once she received those pictures via email, it was just, again, I like to consider it a lifesaver for this individual. And unfortunately, it's not the only time that we've had instances like that where we've been able to access this tool to protect somebody from future and ongoing harm from their loved ones.
Hello again. The majority of the extent of my experience using the iPad has been as an emergency response social worker. I remember on one occasion, we get these, what she called immediate response referrals. We have about 2 hours to respond. I got a call while I was out in the field of an IR alleging domestic violence. Usually before we go out to the home, because we don't know what we're getting into, we like to search to see if they have any criminal history, search to see if they have any child welfare history. Because I was not in the office, I was not able to do that. So with the use of the iPad, I was out in the field in my car, pulled over, searched the Superior Court's website for any criminal history on the family. I searched our CWS CMS case management system to see if they had any prior history. Went to the home, met with the mother, was able to, using the internet, look up for domestic violence resources in her area, provided her information. Also, after my visit, I was able to go back into my car and dictate into our calendar. You're able to dictate your notes, my contacts, and email them to myself. So when I got back into the office, my contacts were there, make it saves time, and we're able to enter our contacts in a timely manner and serve our families.
And we're also able to be much more efficient, and it's also quite a time saver. I had also mentioned very earlier that there's been many a times where we're already out on the field, and if a client is not home, because we do conduct unannounced home visits, well, if you're out in Simi Valley and your next visit that you had intended is, let's say, in Thousand Oaks, I'm able to access our case management database to see if I've had any cases assigned to me that particular morning. Well, if I'm already in the area and I see that I just got assigned another Simi Valley case, not only am I more efficient, I'm responding a lot quicker to that new case. I'm able to not only save time, but also we do have to drive our own personal vehicles at times. So instead of returning to the office the next day, seeing that referral and having to return to Simi Valley, not only have I saved myself time, but I've also saved miles on my own personal vehicle and mileage. And again, it's we're much more consistent. We're responding a lot faster. We are putting ourselves in a much more safer predicament, in that, again, we don't know what kind of homes we're going into, but again, because we have this tool, we're able to research any history, see if there's guns in the home, any convicted felons in the home, because unfortunately, again, we do deal with these individuals who may not currently be incarcerated, and they're the ones isolating or the alleged abuser. Then I can better prepare, call law enforcement, and work much more efficiently to not only protect myself, but to provide better more efficient services for that senior that I'm out there to protect.
Mr. Chair? I was just going to ask Lorena and Griselda, normally do you go on your own when you go to cases like so?
We have county cars.
But I mean,
Do we go by ourselves?
individually.
Do we go by ourselves?
Yes.
By yourselves, yes.
Yeah, a lot of the times, due to staff issues, we don't have the staff to go out, you know.
So this can
in
really help
pairs.
you tremendously.
Absolutely, yeah. We're able to look up criminal history, like she said, if they're, you know, if they're wanted, you know, they have a warrant out for their arrest, we know that, and we can take law enforcement with us.
And then you're going to be able to have the Skype, you know, so you can speak to...
We are able to also do the case conferencing, the real-time FaceTime where we can conference, and that actually also brings another great point in that sometimes you're out there. I mean, I'm not a medical professional by any means, and again, due to staffing, we have 2 nurses that we have to split amongst, at least in our department with Adult Protective Services, amongst 12 social workers. They might already be out on a joint home visit with another individual. Well, if I'm looking at somebody that appears, in my opinion, where they might have some open sores, or I'm questioning maybe the medication with what the caregiver is reporting,
you can communicate with them.
I can email and send pictures of whatever my concerns are, again, in real time, to the public health nurse. We can communicate through this tool without interrupting our assessment and our interview with this client. I mean, it's really, you can be quite discreet as well because you're also able to email and communicate without disrupting. So it's very, again, we're able to provide services right there on the spot. And again, because we're able to work together in a collaborative effort, then I can better provide a much quicker assessment for my client. Do they need emergency medical care? Let me see what my nurse says. He should come out here. So again, it's really about providing prompt, efficient
I like
services.
the idea about if you're in Simi Valley and you have a case in Thousand Oaks, why drive all the way back to Ventura and then go all the way back to Thousand Oaks?
And again, like Lorena, I'm sure she can relate. We were discussing this earlier. I had a case in Grimes Canyon. I'm not very familiar with that area. I covered the west part of the county of Ventura, and we had, I got a call for an immediate response over in Fillmore. Well, the MapQuest printout that I had at my hand took me through the 101 and, you know, took me the 45-minute way. My first instinct was, well, now I'm going to have to drive back to Ventura and then go through the 126. And I thought, well, wait a minute. I have the iPad right here. I punched in my current location to my destination. I saved myself 40 minutes because I got to Fillmore from Grimes Canyon in 20 minutes.
That's right. Okay.
So, yeah, I can't say how much this has really made our job a lot easier.
You're providing excellent examples of the use of this, and so obviously you two have mastered the technology well. So congratulations and thank you for doing that. My question for you is, from your perception, what percentage of your colleagues are up to speed and have it, you know, because this takes a while for the culture to really adopt this stuff.
Well, we have training. I was one of the, I guess, one of the resources. I would get calls from staff. I was a support person. If they had any questions, they would call. But I think pretty much everyone knows how to use the iPad. I think it's really user-friendly. Yeah. We've had great feedback.
So you think most of your colleagues are up to speed and using it well?
Absolutely, and I know half of my colleagues are here being very supportive, and they can attest to how user-friendly it is. And we do discuss amongst ourselves quite frequently how much time this has saved us and how much quicker we're able to respond and close out referrals. It's just so efficient. And I think, again, because it's user-friendly, we've had great training. The IT staff has also been absolutely amazing in answering any questions, providing us with any apps that we may discover from a peer or somebody else. And they've been able to provide us with all these apps that have been extremely helpful to us out in the field.
So if I could, for Barry, and thank you both, and congratulations, you're doing a lot of good stuff.
Thank you all for your support. Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
And, you know, many times in the 13 years I've been here, when we've done a technology implementation, and I know Matt Carroll would constantly say, now, don't think this means we're going to suddenly be able to have, efficiencies and cut cost and, those kinds of things with technology implementation. But this one feels like it actually is going to make us more efficient and be able to provide better service and just stretch resources more efficiently. You feeling that way?
I would agree with that statement. It's technology, but the way we view it is more of a tool. It's a technology-based tool that's really implemented, not just a base technology that we've gone to word processing, right? And so that has been the game changer that now says, oh, this is really something that can be applied practically in the real world.
So I would just hope that, and I'm sure you will, but you and your staff just do everything you can to make this the culture of if to work in this department, you've got to be somebody that, as these two women have so, demonstrated so well, you've got to be a pro at using this stuff, and you have to constantly be updating and constantly staying on top of that and being really efficient with that.
And I appreciate that, and I appreciate your questioning on the penetration that this has had. And like any technology, some embrace it a little bit more than others. But in the long run, we see this as the only way you're going to be successful in achieving the goals and achieving your work is using this technology.
And watching penetrations in some other places and outlier, people resisting and stuff. I just hope we can really send a message that the culture just demands that you've got to be there.
Technology is getting pretty pervasive, even today, because they gave me this presentation been scheduled a few times, and so I go, well, I need one that the field workers have to bring to you, and so I did, and I got a note yesterday from the IT department that says, hey, I noticed you haven't turned on your machine in 53 days, and so we have the ability.
We have training for you.
Yeah, I do need the training. So we do have the ability, and the reason I bring that up, we have the ability to understand the utilization of the technology, and we do have. And a while back, a report came out and said, hey, there's a couple workers that aren't using them. And so the question we have first is the tool. Was it explained and trained? Did they get the training they need? And then the question is, why in their case hasn't it been adopted? And I think that's paramount. It's not a blanket to say here. We're looking at it on an individual basis. How well can we train you to use the tool and what tools you need, which I think over the long run will be a great benefit. Now, we very much focused in on it has great potential, and I didn't get into the details, but the IT department, there's great security on it. There's great tracking capabilities of it. There's abilities to wipe them remotely and so forth. So the protection of data on the secure of the asset itself, it has been well planned and implemented throughout.
Great work.
I just want to say thank you, and it is great work, and it was great to hear from the workers who actually implement and use the tool, and that the clients we're working with that we're able to get to them whatever resources they need quicker, connect them, share the information. So I think it's wonderful that we've incorporated this, and I expect for anyone who has a teenager at home, if you don't know how to do it, ask them. They know how to do it. I got 4-year-old grandkids who know how to use it. Yeah, really.
I have a friend who teaches kindergarten, and they're actually introducing them there. But this is so impressive, the ability to, one, connect with all those staff, and that has a lot to do, too, with the collaborative effort that we have because they're all from different departments, and being able to get that more immediate reply to these individuals who could be in pretty bad shape, as we hear. So it's nice to see that we're able to help them faster and do it more efficiently, and it seems like a really good investment, and I congratulate you.
Yeah, thank you.
You go ahead, Mike.
I was just going to say thank you and echo it. It's great to hear the critical nature of the work that you do. So thank you for coming and sharing that. What's been the feedback from your clients? I mean, do they?
I love it. I wonder what it is that I'm doing with this black little wear.
Right.
Once we show it to them, because, well, I work with APS, so most of them are seniors and most of them haven't been exposed
Right.
to this technology. But once I start showing them what I'm doing, they just find it fascinating. They think it's like a little portable TV. So, but it's, you know, they're just pleased that we are again able to offer them and provide them with anything that they need right then and there, instead of saying, well, I gotta go to my office, I'll
Right.
be back tomorrow or next week. Hey, here are the numbers that we need, let's call right now, let's
Yeah.
take care of it right now. So
That's great.
they're just very thrilled that we're able
I'll
to
bet.
use that.
Getting better care. Yeah, thank you.
Yeah. From our pilot, just on that, because we tested different types of technology, and some of the feedback was when we would be in an environment where we would be using this, and you put a laptop up, it seemed to be a barrier associated with the interaction with the client. Is where the iPads now, in particular, if people are familiar with it, they don't even recognize it. in
Yeah,
that regard.
no question. As you see all the laptops, personal computer, kind of dying. This tablet technology is really moving. But just hearing their excitement is it's fun to do their work. When she was just talking about how I can get somebody done right now and do that instead of going back, I'll come back and do it. Where if I had some way to do this, well, now they do. And I think that just makes it more enjoyable for everybody that does it, because there's so many things they need to connect to. And I think that the people that do this work care about people anyway, and they want to serve them and do the things for them right now.
Absolutely.
And I think you jumped on a program that has worked out very successfully for you, and it sounds like it's going to be so successful in the future.
Yeah, and it's really a reflection of the staff's embracement of trying to say, how can I do our work better? And it's really a reflection of our entire line staff and the way they approach their work. So I
And you're
commend them
absolutely
greatly.
right, because Lorena and Griselda were so enthused about what they're doing, and it's just fantastic.
Yeah, and
And
at
one
the
of the things that you mentioned too was that the FTEs that you're saving, the dollars that you're saving, the time that you're saving, the safety, all those combined are extremely important.
And as Steve was saying before, as you put safety, how do you put a dollar amount on these ladies and these other
That's
people
right.
that having to walk into different situations? If there's ways that this helps, that's worth it. But
Sure.
at the same time, you're saving money, you're saving time. But I know they sit there in that car going, I got a half an hour drive back. I could be doing so much more things if they did that. So anyway, well, congratulations. And
Good job.
Thought we would share that with you. So.
Yeah, that I can see why you said it was one of your better, more fun things to do. That was great. So, we have one speaker. Lucas wants to speak on this?
Yes.
Yeah, okay, Lucas, yeah.
I've benefited from social workers, and I've also dealt with the fact that social workers are overworked and underpaid and sometimes unable to serve the people that need their services. So I'm absolutely in favor of providing social workers with more tools to more effectively provide social services to people that need them. I'd like the county to consider using a company other than Apple for those devices. I think you can save some money and maybe have some more corporate morality if you chose a different company. That's all. Thanks.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. And I appreciate you saying that they've done well for you, so thank you. Okay, so we have a motion to receive and file. Thank you, Barry. Thank you all. Thank you, ladies, for coming up to speak, and the rest of you for coming in. Okay. I want to. Here's something we can do. We could finish our public comment real quick or go to our grand jury. But you want to speak? I didn't know if you were speaking on something that had to do with the grand jury or not. Or
No, just my public comment.
okay, why don't we just finish public comments real quick? I don't want you to have to stay here all day.
I filed a map that I drew out there. It's not accurate to scale, but could you pass it around, please? I would like for the county to provide a bus that goes from Ventura City Hall to the Government Center or the Transit Center, and then stops in Oxnard, make a stop in Camarillo, make a stop in Thousand Oaks. Now, this sounds familiar to a bus that you're already running, the Conejo Valley Transit, the Vista, but it stops right there in the Conejo Valley, and that's unnecessary. The bus can continue going on the 101 and make a stop at North Hollywood, and then another stop in Union Station. I'm sure the county would have to partner with L.A. County on something like this, and maybe with the city of L.A. as well. And there are 4 million people in LA, and they want to go to the beach sometimes, and they don't all have cars. The VC reporter here has some nasty pictures of the 101, and I drive it. It's nasty. I'm going to have to go to LA today, and I'm not looking forward to driving on the 101. And if there were a bus that could go there that was affordable, then I wouldn't have to. And there are the statistics are in here. There are like 100,000 cars on that every day in Camarillo, and it dwindles a little bit as you get further north. So we have a traffic congestion problem here in Ventura County. So it's our responsibility to alleviate that traffic congestion problem. I'd like the bus to run 24 hours because people in Hollywood like to drink, and then they want to drive home from Hollywood to Ventura County, and then there are drunk drivers on the road. And so instead of just having drunk drivers driving around and hurting people, we can provide a transit option for them that's safe and affordable, and people will use it. If people can take a bus at 3 o'clock in the morning from Hollywood to Ventura, they would be more likely to want to go to Hollywood to do their partying because they wouldn't have to get a designated driver and pay for parking and all of that. So it's really a safety thing and an environmental thing. You got to do this bus, please. I know I have a lot of things that you're probably never going to do, but this bus is something I know you can do. Thanks.
Thank you. Appreciate that. Now, is anybody else in public comment? Nope. Okay. Then we'll move on to item number 25. And Matt Carroll.
Morning, Chair Foy, members of the board. Mr. Powers, Matt Carroll with the County Executive Office. As you know, the grand jury this year, the civil grand jury for 2012 and 13 produced a total of 15 reports, and 6 of those reports applied to operations under your board's control. Agenda item 25 today requests your board review and approve the responses to those 6 reports that applied to county operations. As you know, your board was requested or required to respond to 4 reports, and county staff, along with the assistance of agency and department staff, prepared your draft responses to those reports, and those are part of the package here today for your review and approval. Additionally, county staff, CEO, and department heads and departments reporting directly to the CEO were required to respond or requested or required to respond to 4 additional reports, and those draft responses are also provided in your packet today for approval. You'll approve those along with your responses. As you also know, elected officials reply directly to the presiding judge, but we included responses for 3 reports that the sheriff and county clerk, recorder, registrar of voters replied to, and those are included in your packet today for your review and for informational purposes. So in summary, the 6 reports that required responses on the part of your board and the responses that were submitted include the Senior Transportation Ventura County report, and that was a response just by your board of supervisors. We had the Ventura County Libraries report, and it was requested responses from your board, the CEO's office, and the library agency. We had the Elections and Polling report that had responses required of the county clerk, recorder, and registrar of voters, and the board, and a requested response from the sheriff. Those are included in your packet today. We had in-custody death, which had required responses from your board and the sheriff, and a requested response from the healthcare agency. We had the fueling responsibly in Ventura County, which had just a single response required of your board. And finally, we had the detention facilities inspection report that had required responses on the part of the probation agency and the sheriff. Now, with that, we have representatives for each of the departments that provided responses, as well as the elected officials. And from this point, if your board has any amendments or changes to the responses you're approving today, that being those prepared by staff, or on behalf of your board, CEO staff can make those changes before submitting them finally to the presiding judge. And with that, I'll just open it up to questions on any particular reports that staff or officials can respond to.
Okay. I have a couple, but only one change that I'd like to make, and that is in the transportation response to senior transportation in Ventura County. On the findings on second page, that we respond to, it's FI 05, and we partially agree. I would take off the word partially and just agree. And that finding says, the grand jury found that many bus routes, fees, stops, and schedules differ so profoundly that it is confusing to many. The cognitive limitations of many senior citizens add to this issue. I think that, and the response is just fine. We explain what services that we do provide, but I would change that to agree. And that's in the one on senior transportation. Then also regarding the one on Ventura County Libraries, that talks about the summer reading program to address the loss of student reading skills. And I think that this is becoming an issue because partially the technology that's out there and distractions that are more available to and social media to our youth, that people are losing those reading skills and they're not getting in touch with books. And I know that Supervisor Long and myself will be are working on putting together a bookmobile service to get that out to the schools and help to increase support for our schools. Some don't have librarians anymore, just to be able to help increase the services of the Ventura County Library system. So that might be something we will want to add in the response too, because that's moving forward and looks like the Library Foundation Board is going to be coming together really well. And then a question, I know we have Mr. Lund there. I just had regarding the response to elections and polling grand jury report. And I know, Mr. Lund, you've put some cameras in your offices, and this grand jury comment seems to be specific about the counting room and whether, they're concerned about security being breached and people going in. Would that be a good place to have a camera that is actually viewable by the public?
Good morning, Chair Foy, honorable members of the board, Mr. Powers. Supervisor, yes. In fact, when I arrived on the scene, I had added some cameras to the room, and we're in the process now of a couple of projects, one of those being transmitting what occurs in the elections division out over the internet so folks can watch. The issue that we have specifically in the room, while we've added cameras in that room, is we have to protect. It's one thing about transparency, but we have to protect exactly what happens camera-wise, and that's what we're looking at now, what happens when we merge databases to create numbers and results. And so we're in the process of that.
You're on top of that already. Okay, thank you. And those are my 3 comments or suggestions. I don't know if you wanted to put that in the grand jury report, Mr. Lund, but that is, I think that is a valuable service that people can have that better reassurance that things are all very transparent. Thank you.
Did you, Mr. Lund, did you get what she said? Do you want to change your response, or do you think it's in there or not?
We could amend our response to say that we are in the process of looking at the broadcast over the internet of the election division activities on election night.
Yeah.
If you could take verbiage like that, that'd be great. And we'll amend that.
Because Matt said that you could do that before they find the supplemental submission. Okay, great.
Thank you.
Thanks. Comments? No? Okay. We do have one person, Laura Golson. Yeah.
Thank you. Excuse me. And
thank you for waiting for us.
That's
thank you.
Fine. And you got my name right, which is nice. I live at 157 Madera Avenue in Ventura, and I've lived in Ventura since 1949. I just wanted to come down because the grand jury report on the Ventura County Library Services contained, I don't know, errors is what I came up with. Who did they talk to? Not any of the citizens that I know of. We have literally boxes, and if my computer wasn't down, I intended bringing pictures in my computer room of stacks of boxes and papers and newspaper clippings to pass out. That when we were told, oh, write a letter, be brief, and when you're called on, you can bring all of this stuff. Well, it never happened? Now they have a second grand jury report. Not one person from the Friends of the Library was called. They are the hardworking, money-supplying group. None of them were called. No citizens that I know of were called. What is the result? The result is the whitewash of the Ventura County Library Services and the director, Jackie Griffin. Ever since Jackie Griffin came to Ventura after being fired from her previous job, library services in Ventura County have deteriorated. In this recent report, the director complained that she lacks funding from book sales. Well, the Friends of the Library have done a magnificent job with no thanks. Twice she complains that she doesn't get support from the county. I think you people have backed her to the hilt. Why do we need the Ventura County Library Services? Ventura is the only big city left, and we wouldn't be if we ever had an opportunity to express that we'd like out. Avenue's federally funded EP Helen Power Wright was illegally closed, and our tax money supports Foster, and then the overflow goes to the smaller libraries. So, and these bookmobile ideas, I'm sorry to say, are not going to meet the needs of the 70,000 families and children in the East End that have no library facilities. So thank you for listening, and I really wish you would not approve this grand jury report without a little more investigation. Any questions?
Thank you. Any comments, questions? No. Thank you very much. Appreciate you waiting.
Thank you.
Matt? So,
I just want to make one comment before we move, two comments actually. I support Supervisor Parks' suggestion that we go from partially agree to agree on the transportation item. Regarding Ms. Golvison's comments about, or request that we not approve the grand jury report, I just want to be clear, the grand jury report is not ours to approve or not approve. It's a grand jury's report. All that we are doing is responding to the grand jury report. So in our response to the grand jury report, certainly your testimony has been heard now by the grand jury. They have a representative here today. So the issues that you raised, for example, that you want to have more input into it, the grand jury will take note of that. But we don't get to change the grand jury report. All we do is simply respond. So I appreciate you taking the time to point out your concerns, and I would be supportive. I don't know how Supervisor Parks is going to fashion her suggestion for modification, but I'd be supportive of the transportation one in particular.
I'd be up then, if that's all the comments, to go ahead and make a motion and to include in that, changing that one response to findings to agree, that's FI05 under transportation instead of partially agree, to incorporate the clerk's additional comments on cameras, and a mention of our efforts to bring forward a bookmobile to further Ventura County Library Services out into the county.
you said partially agree. You want to change it just to agree, right?
Change it to agree.
To agree.
Correct.
And can we make those changes and hear from Dyson be done? Does it have to?
You can make those changes in the form of the motion.
Great.
Matt, they're clear?
Crystal.
Okay. You want to say something, though? Go ahead, Mike, while we vote.
Okay.
Well, I just, on the piece with the bookmobile, I would just fashion some wording that says that the consideration for bookmobile, because obviously it all has to come back.
Right.
That piece of it through our development and approval, so consideration. That's all.
Yes.
Thank you, Chair Foy. Just the only comment I would make is two really is one. First, thank the grand jury because they really looked at some very important areas and they did the thorough research And I think also then to thank the department heads who obviously took these reports very seriously and did very thorough responses to them, agreed with many of their findings, and are adopting some of their suggestions. So we appreciate the work that's been done by all. It's a lot of work contained in these reports, so thank you.
All right, Matt, we're going to vote. Any questions, or you've got everything square? That new stuff? Okay.
We have everything. Thank you.
Thank you. Huh? Yeah. I just wanted to make sure that since they just changed that last thing, he was there. One-arm voting. That's it. All right. Okay. That's great. Thank you.
Thank you.
And then item number 24, Supervisor Parks has a request to send a letter.
The Board of Supervisors in the past has supported efforts to reduce the amount of anticoagulant rodenticides that the county uses in its facilities, from their parks to landscaping and golf courses, and using it only in moderation where we have to, for example, protect our dams. And there are so many other alternatives out there now that it is important that we encourage entities to use these alternatives, because these particular type of pesticides have a way of working their way into the food chain of the wildlife in our area, and as a result there has been some significant losses to everything from raptors to bobcats to coyotes and even mountain lions. And so the Department of Pesticide Regulation recognizes this concern, and they are proposing on their own to move forward with requiring that licensed applicators are the only ones that would be using these. And I think that is a very positive step. Recent studies by the National Park Service and the Fish and Game have found just an incredible amounts of these rodenticides in the wildlife species when they've done testing, and something like 90% of them, 80% of them are shown to have this. And it starts really with residents may put out bait like decon for rats, and then the rats end up getting eaten by coyotes, and the coyotes get eaten by the mountain lions, and they all end up having this in their systems, and it is so predominant throughout the wildlife in our area that it's a very big concern. And so I would ask that our board take a position in support of the Department of Pesticide Regulations efforts. And I note that also some cities in our area, the city of Malibu, is working to ban the sale of them in their area. And I think it's a positive effort. And it does say there is a speaker, but I don't think you have any speakers on this.
Are you here to speak on this at all?
I'm here available in case there are any questions, but I have a few of the questions from concerned folks.
Right,
Okay.
if there were, he's here for questions. As I understand, though, our agriculture community are licensed to be able to provide, to use this, so it isn't going to, as I understand, have an impact on their ability. But I think it's just it is good for us to encourage other types of rodenticides that are out there so that we don't have a loss of so much of our wildlife. So I'll move that we make this, send this letter to the Department of Pesticide Regulation. I had testified before them a few years ago, and it's nice to see that they are evolving and moving forward on this.
Okay. I'd like to just ask, if I could ask Henry, you come up and for our local farming community, what kind of impact does this have? Or is there good alternatives that they can move forward with?
There will be no impact to agriculture with this change.
Okay.
And I have fielded a number of calls with that concern, and this is what I've been sharing with them, that this does not affect agriculture.
Okay, so their rodent requirements to control, they can use other alternatives that work and do it. It's not overly crazy expensive for them to do it?
Yes, they can use these products as well and other products. They generally are already certified they take an exam, or either with our office or with the state, to become a certified private applicator or a qualified applicator or a qualified licensee.
Mm-hmm.
With that certification, they can then purchase these materials. And so they can still purchase this material. This is more targeting homeowners that might be purchasing these materials and perhaps not as aware of the precautions that need to be taken when using these materials.
Right, right. Okay, great. If I could do one more, Jeff, you don't know this, but I want to ask you a question on this real quick. I'm asked Jeff Pratt a question. And the reason I want to ask you is you've got a lot of levees and a lot of other areas that you have to control, and I know that rodents in those destroy those things. And have you found, or you may already have been doing, not using these anyway, I don't know. So just
we do use them. Good morning, Chair Foy, board members, Mr. Powers, for record, Jeff Pratt with Public Works. We do use anticoagulants. We do have licensed applicators. They're trained and retrained again. I think every year we send them out to classes. This will add a level of reporting requirement, as I understand it, to we will have to report all of our applications in some format that's suitable to the Ag Commissioner, which is all that the California restricted will add to what we already do.
Okay, so it's not stopping you using what you're using. And is this what you found the most effective way to control your rodents?
It is, and we brought in the experts to study this from the universities and others, and we've reduced the amount of anticoagulant we use while increasing other things that we use for the same purposes. And we've reduced the number of applications. We've done everything we can that we know of at this point. We do have an integrated pest management plan that's been adopted by your board.
Right, right. And so part of it is that if there's these other whatever products out there, they just don't have the same result. Is that why you're still using this, or what?
Yeah, these are a little more effective, and in the high risk situations, levees and dams, their use is demanded.
Right, right. And so over an area of the county, what you're talking about, the use part of you is a very small part of the county anyway. When you talk about the large mass of land and the areas,
Yes,
but you're also in wildlife areas. There's no question.
We are. We're in the interface, right?
Yeah, you're in there. Okay. Like I said, I didn't know if you would use them or you'd found a way to stop, but you've cut them back to the point where you can cut it back.
That's correct.
And still be effective, because I know I've talked to people in the Midwest where they got tons of levees, and rodent control on levees is huge, because you allow them to dig in, it destroys those levees, and so controlling that's a big deal. Okay, I appreciate that.
Another benefit, if I may, in addition to wildlife, it also will reduce the potential for pets and children of getting these kind of products too, which has occurred over time. And one of the statistics, the Department of Fish and Wildlife Service did a study, and of the 492 non-target mammals like red fox, mountain lion, bobcat, coyotes, federal endangered San Joaquin kit fox, and birds, of the 492 mammals they tested, 368 had residues of the anticoagulant rodenticides, almost 75%. And you're just seeing that in all the wildlife in our area, and it leads to their death. So it's just it's almost like DDT with Silent Spring. You're just seeing this so much out there in our environment. So I think we can do a small measure by encouraging DPR to help restrict its use by people who aren't licensed, and eventually will encourage more responsible ways to reduce rodents.
Just a little confused because Jeff had said something that he would require him to do reporting, different reporting.
No, this is
to restrict it.
This specifically requires that you be a licensed applicator.
Oh, okay.
And you can't buy it you won't be able to buy it at the grocery store shelves.
Okay, okay. So, all right. So it doesn't take away your ability to selectively use this.
No.
It takes away my ability probably to buy it at Lowe's or Home Depot or something like that.
I don't think it would take that away. I don't know that, but from a California restricted pesticide, the difference is that we report it to the Ag Commissioner. The Ag Commissioner can regulate it the way he sees fit.
Oh, I see. Okay. Then an energy report. Okay. Okay. Great. All right. Fine. Okay. Great. Everybody vote. You're waiting on me again, I know. There you go. All right, so we'll move forward with that. Then we have our correspondence agenda. We can move for that. Okay. And I think that was our last item, isn't it? 15, oh. And we got the, we let the board speak?
Now that I'm here, yes.
15, what about, where's 17?
You going to 15 or board?
15, oh, okay.
Okay. Then I'm going to recuse myself due to a conflict of interest, because I own some
Aye,
property.
always causing
there.
conflict here.
Chair Foy, members of the board, CEO Powers, ladies and gentlemen, my name is Tully Clifford. I'm with the Public Works Agency, and I'm the Director of the Watershed Protection District. I'm before you today requesting that you approve a consulting services contract with Aspen Environmental Group in the amount of $513,591 for the Santa Clara River Levee SCR3 project, and authorize the Director of the Public Works Agency or his designee to execute the contract. I'd be happy to provide additional details on the project or this contract should you desire.
I could ask you a whole lot about it, but that's all right. You understand it. Okay, we have a motion and a second. There you go. Okay, sir. Let's get these levies done. Thank you. All right, so that's our last item? We're going to, okay. All right, we're going to go to board comments first. All right? Supervisor, you want to go first while we're waiting for?
I would be happy to, since I'm still here. Yeah. First, I'll submit this one name to adjourn in memory. Thank you. And just a couple quick things. One is on October 9th. Although it's next week, I wanted to just bring to our attention that the Ventura County Arts Council is going to have their Art Star Awards, and the honorees are wonderful from across the county, including former Supervisor Maggie Kildee as an individual artist, the Salvador Bravo Award, and then our General Services Agency for the County of Ventura is a public agency serving the arts. So I think that's very nice of the council to recognize GSA, because they work so closely with them on what we get to enjoy here in the government center with the art exhibits. And today is October 1st, and I guess they did shut down because it shut down my meetings and travel time. So government is safe, or we're safe because government shut down. Is that how that goes? Something along that line. It's just a tragedy is what it is. It's a mess. And just shout out to Proposition 84 Round 2 Implementation Grant. And once again, our region's been awarded. Ventura County Watershed Coalition of Ventura County has been awarded $13.4 million for our grant request. So excellent work again by Sue Hughes, Lynn Rodriguez, and the coalition of many who really do come together to work through projects that are important to our region, not just to necessarily one individual area. I should have said this morning, but I failed to. But talking about the jail proposal, attended the reentry summit that was put on last week on September 26th, and it was a community conversation with Dr. Edward Latessa. It might be Latissa, I don't know how to pronounce it, but I was able to stay for most of the morning on that, and just found him just fascinating, both in the depth of his knowledge, but his years of experience in looking at recidivism and reentry program success and failures, and as the room was full of all of our practitioners who are out doing the good work and the leadership focused on reentry, and that was great. And although I think much of what was said reinforces that what we're doing is good work and in the right direction, there were also things he said that said, we need to, there are areas we can step up our game. And the whole thing of whether we're incarcerating or reentering people into our society and our county is a very important one. And I think this, the gnashing of teeth over realignment exists in some parts of the state, but we've embraced it. We've said we're going to make this work, and it was great to have such a summit to be able to focus on and have a full day discussion. And I'm sure there's much more that came out of it that even after I had to leave, but I was very pleased that they were able to sponsor that. So thank you to probation and many folks who put that together. I'm going to give another plug for Saturday, October 12th, 5K walk, Ventura Harbors, making strides against breast cancer. And this is October 1st, starts the whole month of Breast Cancer Awareness Month. And I will be walking with the Pinkettes. It's down at the harbor. Anyone listening who'd like to join us, please do. That starts, it is in the morning, starting at 8 o'clock with a walk at 9. And as I said, it's a very doable, good walk, fun to do. And I just do a quick report out from our board comments last week regarding the VRSD and the City of Oxnard and how they're going to reposition the delivery of their solid waste contract. I appreciate that Mayor Flynn accommodated the request to have a meeting, and I was there along with our CEO and Reddy Pacala from Solid Waste, and they had VRSD representatives there, and basically just putting out for the discussion, and it was, I think, a healthy discussion, that we had concerns and that there was a true lack of communication from VRSD to the county, and that part of that is we don't have a seat on the board with VRSD, and part of it is just, having that communication and understanding when you're doing a change in solid waste operations from one landfill to another, what are the unintended consequences and the long-term and the impacts outside of those who sit on that board. So I think I made it very clear. I did not imply anything beyond that. The board has not taken any position beyond that, so I wouldn't, but I did open up for further discussion, some opportunities for, again, whether this board might be interested in having a seat on VRSD's board. And also what should be taking place, frankly, is the broader discussion of, as Mayor Flynn pointed out, a zero waste vision, and whether what we as a county will need to be challenged, with in the future is the capacity at landfills, and whether or not landfills are part of the landscape in 20 years, 25, 30 years. What are we doing to remove? And we've been very successful at removing things from the landfill, recycling, 939, all the other things that have forced us to, but successfully we've been able to do so as consumers. And really thinking about, for at least the West County, back in the day when there was a countywide commission, and now there isn't, thinking about how are we going to look that far ahead. And at local government, we're able to do that, and we should be doing that, and encouraged that kind of discussion and thinking to take place. So in the For What It's Worth department, I appreciated at 4:30 in the afternoon on a Friday that we were there and able to have that discussion. And yes, I did look at VCOG, where this kind of discussion should take place. And there was some surprised looks when I said that. It was said, well, what's the impact of the county on this? Well, the impact of the county was will be a monetary loss, and will be the issue of capacity at Tolan at some point. So there should be that discussion. So I think there will be other follow-ups. I've asked that we take a look at the pros and cons of having a seat back on VRSD's board, and we'll bring that back to the board. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and I'd like to adjourn in memory of these folks on this list. And just to add a little bit to what Supervisor just mentioned, I was a member of VRSD for 12 years, and one of the concerns that I had about this proposal was the liability and financial liability and legal liabilities about the closure and post-closure liabilities that we have in those landfills. Santa Cruz, which is now the golf course, and Coastal and Baylord, we are all responsible for those, for that refuse that's underneath that and liability that potentially could come back to us if Tolan is closed. The concern that I had was basically the competition and also the monopoly of landfills that could potentially happen. But anyway, I agree with, I'm not going to reiterate anything, but I agree with that Supervisor Long's idea that we should look at maybe having membership at VRSD. And we had a membership, I understand, many years ago. But having a representative from the board, there might be an excellent idea so we can keep abreast of what's happening with our solid waste here in Ventura County. And I'd like to share with you, too, when I was a city employee and I was the manager or the department head of the refuse department, I implemented AB 939 and also started the MRF, the material recycling facility, the transfer station, and many other ideas that reduce waste. And I believe in the zero waste too. I believe that we should strive for that. But anyway, that's all I want to share about the VRSD process. One of the things that we did last Saturday too was under United Way Day of Caring. We went over to the Colonia boxing gym and we painted walls, we cleaned floors, sidewalks, pulled weeds, and we laid out over 1,000 square feet of sod, for the gym there. And additionally, we had about almost 40 individuals. We had some young ladies that came all the way from Thousand Oaks. We had some other young ladies that came from Oxnard College. We had volunteers from throughout, and mainly young ladies. I just want to share that we had very few boys show up, so that's important. I just want to commend them for doing that. That's right. And we had three little kids or maybe they're 8, 9 years old, that are boxing fans that they trained there, and they were so happy. They went out there and helped us clean and pull weeds, and they were extremely happy. So my understanding is that under the United Way we had about 27 locations, and I think we saved about $100,000 worth of, or contributed about $100,000 worth of volunteering work. After that, I went over to the Banana Festival in Hueneme. My understanding is they had several thousand people. I got there too late for the presentations, but I did meet, some of the harbor officials and Port Hueneme council members, and walked around and had a great time. The weather was just perfect. They had a great country western band, and people were dancing, having a great time. It was just absolutely great. And they were giving free bananas too, away. So I had a lot of bananas. Additionally, we held the nuclear event town hall meeting with Dr. Levin and Rigo Vargas. Dr. Levin did an excellent job. We had pretty close to about 40 people there at the Oxnard Library, and gave us some really good information on the nuclear, in case of a nuclear event. And additionally, I attended the installation of Jay Duncan, president of Kiwanis. I hired Jay Duncan, almost say 30 years ago, and now he's the president of Kiwanis, again for the second time. And Kiwanis continues to provide excellent help and work for our seniors, our youth, in the community. So it was just great to be there to support him. And of course, we're planning other events too that I think will help the community. And that's all I have at this time.
Thank you. I wanted to compliment Supervisor Long on the really good speech she gave at that reentry realignment meeting and with Mr. Latessa, and what incredibly good information that was. I'm really glad that we were able to get someone of his stature there, and the right people were in the room and really discussing evidence-based practices and making sure that you're able to get the desired results from the strategies that you're putting in place. So excellent. And something I think you can take a lot of information you can take away from that. Also, I look forward to her successful Making Strides walk, and noted that the Star tried to put out a pink paper today. And it came a little bit late. They had some problems, but they did it. Yeah. And then some of the things that I was able to attend, the Ventura County Sheriff's Foundation badges at the beach, and see a good turnout for funds for the Sheriff's Foundation, and as well as being able to attend the Valley Vet nonprofit dinner that they had. That's the group out there in Simi with Dr. Novi that's just dedicated to making sure that they can spay and neuter cats, particularly, and dogs, so that we don't have to put so many animals to sleep at our shelters, and looking to try to get the all no-kill shelter. So that's a really valuable charity, and I'm really glad that they did have the good turnout that they did. And then also got to see Sheriff Dean again at he came to our nuclear response workshop community town hall that we had in Thousand Oaks. The mayor of Thousand Oaks was there too, and some very valuable, simple information about what you can do to protect yourself in the event that there is some kind of a nuclear attack, for example, in Los Angeles. And it was very valuable. And I think Dr. Levin has done a great job, and has a great video out there that people can go to our website and take a look at. And then since we've had discussions about VRSD, having worked with the staff of VRSD when I was on the Triumpha Sanitation District, and looking at seeing the issues that they have with their finances, which give me a lot of concerns. Additionally, just in the Triumpha Sanitation District area with the VRSD staff that they hire, they've seen, for example, an underground metering station that they just moved forward on. They didn't go to out to bid. It was a no-bid contract, and it ended up, instead of being $400,000, came in at $870,000. And Triumpha Sanitation District's a pretty small, just a few $1 million budget to begin with. So that was quite a surprise, as well as we had talked earlier about the $300,000 contract with the general manager for these very small districts. And on top of that, looking at the recently, they're just questioning almost 4 times the amount of costs being requested from the attorney that represents them too. So it's just, to me, it's an issue of, not a political problem where, do we have a seat at the table, which I'm not particularly interested at. I'm more interested in the fact that the problem isn't political. The problem is that their capital and operating expenses are out of hand, and you're looking at the potential of regarding solid waste disposal, of them offering a rate that won't even take care of their operating expenses. I have some big concerns, particularly when they're dipping into their reserve funds, and those funds are needed, make sure that we have the closure of the landfill when it reaches capacity, which is coming shortly. So I just have a lot of concerns with the operational and capital expenditures that are coming from that agency, and so I do ask that we proceed with caution in terms of how we decide to get involved. And that concludes my comments.
Good morning. While a number of you attended the realignment seminar that was held, I was able to attend the prescription drug abuse seminar that was held. I just want to get on your radar screen that one of the things that I found out as a result of attending that is that Alameda County adopted an ordinance, and it's an ordinance that I think the best way for me to do it is to read what it did, but the ordinance requires that the drug companies run a stewardship program to collect and discard unwanted medicine. And the initiative's meant to curb drug abuse and the flushing of pills into the water supply. Just like the paint stores right now, you can recycle your paint at the paint stores, and so a lot of people who used to just dump that paint out or try to slip it into the landfill and stuff, now there's a much better place for that to go. Well, Alameda County adopted this last summer. The drug companies, not surprisingly, challenged it. Very popular in Alameda County. Drug companies challenged it, and Alameda County has won at the first level. It's not certain now whether the drug companies are going to appeal or not. I wanted to let the board know that from my perspective, it seems that the drug companies that are benefiting from these sales should play a role in the discarding of these unwanted drugs that are out there, and that shouldn't all be dumped onto the public from that standpoint. And so I'm going to investigate this Alameda County ordinance. I'm going to watch and see what happens from the standpoint of appeal, and I'll be reporting back to the board in terms of that, and very potentially coming back with something like this for Ventura County. But just wanted to let the board know. So if people have input before it comes back, I'd be happy to for anybody out there, I'd be happy to take input about about this, because unless something comes up that surprises me, at some point in time I would be proposing that come back. I was also able to attend the Project Understanding Volunteer Appreciation event at the Poinsettia Pavilion. They do a lot of work that is very consistent with the county's mission in terms of trying to help and it's across the board. I mean, they help the homeless. They do a food pantry. They tutor 300 children every week down on the avenue. Bottom line is, if you have a need and you're willing to help yourself, Project Understanding is there for you. And I was just really pleased with watching them have their volunteer appreciation day. A number of us attended the Cause community building luncheon at the Crown Plaza Pavilion, and while Supervisor Zaragoza was painting the gym, I participated in a day of caring cleanup at the San Buenaventura beach, and had a good turnout there, and a lot of seventh graders from Cabrillo Middle School were there, which was really good to see. Also able to attend the Dr. Novi annual Love Your Pet dinner in Los Canyons and Simi Valley, and just a great group of people out there trying to spay and neuter as many animals as they can, so that we can get closer and closer to the no-kill. We just improve our kill ratio in the thing, and get closer and closer to our no-kill goal. Final thing I just would like to offer, I know with VRSD we can't all discuss that, in terms of the proposal of whether we're on it. So I'm going to talk just globally about landfills. And there's just an interesting dynamic that we need to be aware of. As elected officials, we find siting landfills very difficult. And when we do it, we want those landfills to last a long time, right? So we want to do things to try to stretch that capacity, et cetera. Meanwhile, people that operate landfills, they want to try to increase the tonnage coming in because they want to get more revenue and make it easier for them to be able to run the landfill and all. So there's just going to be a dynamic tension that's always going to be out there, and we need to be aware of that. But from a public standpoint, if we do get to the point, we will, if we getting to the point of no landfill use at all means gradually, and hopefully if there is a gradual reduction, we can stretch the 2 landfills that we have in Ventura County for a long time, and maybe we don't have to ever site another landfill. To get to the point where there's no landfill, that's going to be very, get to all the way to that point. So we want to make sure that those things last as long as possible. So that's overall a thought that I want to share without commenting specifically on seats at the table or some of the other things that were brought up here, because I know County Council wouldn't want me to go down that direction. Thank you very much.
I thought you guys always want to keep that county council awake, Yeah, you're
That's
awake.
right.
You're worried about it, okay.
Keep him awake, right?
Yeah, that's right. What are these guys saying up there? Anyway, I want to adjourn in memory of the people on this.
And Supervisor, could I adjourn in memory
Sure.
of the people on this list
Sure,
also?
sure.
Thank you.
Everybody got that? So, and that's all I got for comments today. We're going to go to closed session. And do we have any comments come out of closed session?
We will not have any report out.
Okay, then we'll adjourn out of closed session. Thank you.